13 is an unlucky number in my Italian culture. There's a lot of unlucky numbers within the world. I believe in the North American culture, 13 is pretty unlucky. In Toronto, 3-1 is unlucky, 4-1 is unlucky, 3-goal leads is unlucky, pulling your first stringer is unlucky. There's so many things that are unlucky in the GTA, and we're about to discuss them. What's going on, everyone? My name is Mary Russo, joined by a great group of members who discuss the Toronto Maple Leafs, their recent play. We have a full episode dedicated to what our podcast is about, the Leafs Line podcast. We are discussing those Toronto Maple Leafs, and more specifically, that lead that they blew. And if it is that big of a deal, we will get all our thoughts here. Everyone's got something to say. We've been talking about this extensively in our group chat. That, again, another episode, another appearance. It is made off the bingo card. We can check it off right now, and we can get right into it. So, gentlemen, Evan Davis, Jared Rotenberg, and Adamo Romoli there with me today. I am your host, Mary Russo. And the Maple Leafs, were supposed to defeat the Colorado Avalanche. If you start betting beyond the second period, it looked pretty good and intact, 4-1. But if you're a true Leafs fan, you will know that not everything looks good when it's 4-1 favoring the Toronto side. And they ended up losing the game in overtime. I believe, was it Gerard scoring the game winner?
No, Devon
Toews scoring the game winner, and that sinks them 5-4. They grabbed a point out of it, which is a big point against a very good Colorado team. I think we can all agree that that Colorado team is strong. They're a cup contending team like they are almost every year in recent memory. So they got a good group going, but man, the Leafs, a tough one to lose off the handle, and they couldn't keep it together. You knew once you saw the 3-0 lead, a game that personally I believe they didn't have any business being in, but they bounced back pretty quick after an ugly opening minutes of the first period. And they scored 3 quick ones. Austin Matthews looked terrific. Alexander Kerfoot on that top line looked terrific. And I want to hear your terrific opinions if they really are terrific. We'll get around the horn in just a second, but I'll start with you, Adamo. What did you make of the game? And then we'll move forward, because I just want to hear your thoughts strictly on the game. Who stood out, who caught your eye the most, the regular questions we ask for Leafs recaps, and then get into your I think you referred to it as the gaslights coming on. So let's hear what you got, man.
Well, we can't even talk about that because he didn't play last game, but in terms of the Avalanche game, I know we were discussing the 4-1 lead being blown and how it just doesn't feel like a normal 4-1 lead, because we didn't really, we blew the 4-1 lead, obviously, but it really didn't feel like it. I remember I literally sent out a tweet saying, Jared knows because he replied. I said, the Leafs are up 3-0 in a game they have no business being in. This is bound to go wrong. I sent it middle of the first period or whatever. And sure enough, the wheels fell off the bus. But the wheels were never really on the bus. We just kind of have Austin Matthews, who didn't score lucky goals, but he capitalized because he's so good. So obviously he had a fantastic game, but just, I don't even know who to talk about on the Leafs. Obviously Jack Campbell stood on his nuts, but I want to talk about the Avs. Holy crap. They're so good. I think Devon Toews would probably be the best defenseman on the Leafs right now, maybe beside Morgan Rielly.
That's a hands down thing. I think he would be 100%.
Do you think he would be?
I don't even think Rielly's that close offensively.
Yeah.
Even offensively, Devon Toews has 21 points in 19 games. Which shocked me when I saw that. Obviously, they have Cale Makar, who I have a little theory on Cale Makar and his hockey stick, because I think Cale Makar uses an intermediate hockey stick. And
is it confirmed at all? Nothing.
No
word has gone out.
Wow. But his goal, I'm like, how the hell did this guy? He's contorting his body like this or some shit, and he just snips it like it's nothing. The flex on his stick has to be 65 or something. But I'll throw it to you guys. I think I've talked enough. On the game.
I want to just a quick round the horn here. Is Cale Makar the best defenseman in the league? I want a yes or no. Don't even give me analysis.
Yeah, full stop.
Yes.
Move on.
Yeah.
Oh, we're unanimous.
Move
For the
on.
first time in Leafs Line history, we are a unanimous vote. Yes. Let's see if we can keep it going. Jared, what were your thoughts on the game? Before we get into the nitty gritty, the 4-1 blown lead, whatever, because that's probably going to take a big chunk of the discussion. But just strictly game recap. How do you think the Leafs looked? How their players looked? Who stood out to you? And some Colorado Avalanche as well. Take it, Adamo.
I forgot one guy. Guy. I want to shout out our best Canadian winger. 3 points in the first period.
You love him.
Go on, Jared.
Okay. For starters, I want to kind of continue on with what Adamo was saying, because I do agree. I mean, he sent out a bunch of tweets saying, this is bound to go wrong, whatever, we're not playing well. And I was pretty much the guy telling him, shut up, stop being negative. But by the end of the game, I agree with his analysis. And I actually got some flack on Twitter because people were like, Now you're sounding like the negative one, like we played fine, whatever. And I'm like, honestly, looking back, we didn't have a great game. And I fully admit that. Like, of course, when we have a 4-1 lead, when we're winning in the game, I'm going to be the one that's like, whatever, we're finding a way to get a lead. That's great. But taking a step back after the game, we didn't have a good game. We probably fluked into a lead that we didn't deserve because we really capitalized off of a pretty bad performance by Darcy Kemper. That resulted in us getting 3 quick ones, resulted in us getting the lead. But by the end, I mean, the better team ended up winning. The Avalanche just looked faster than us, quicker. They were more crisp. I think we, again, looked like a team that, like in the Edmonton game, we looked like a team that had just been off for a bunch of games and or a bunch of weeks. And for that reason, the better team ended up winning it. I don't agree with the panic. I get it's frustrating. We lost a game where we had a 4-1 lead. It's annoying, and it's something we've seen before. It's happened before. Even as Evan was mentioning in the group chat, it's something that's happened this season as much as we didn't end up losing. However, the big thing I look at is the fact that going into this game, we were undefeated in games where we had a lead going into the third. Now we have 1 loss and 17 wins in that situation. So I'm not ready to hammer the panic button or anything like that. It's an annoying one. Move on. Get it back in Vegas on Tuesday, and I think we'll be fine. I don't think there's reason to panic. We've been unbelievable so far this season. Not only like in the standing sheet, I don't think it's something like, oh, but we're at the top of the standing, so it doesn't matter. Because I think that's something we did last year, and it ended up biting us. I think even our game itself is just significantly better than compared to last year. I think we're doing all the defensive things right. I think we're playing like a great team. Any team is going to have a bad night. It's frustrating. Put it behind you and move on. I think that's kind of my analysis there. Wasn't perfect. We didn't deserve the lead in general, and we blew it as a result. Move on.
And there's a lot of things to pull out of your point, Nate. And one thing is, if you know Jared is getting negative, you know the world's about to crumble and everything around it is going to hit you, because that is a very rare thing. But again, you are absolutely right with the sense that you're absolutely right with the sense that a lot of Leaf fans, and I think we've seen it throughout Twitter, you're going to see it throughout this podcast as well. There's a close way of looking at this game, very close-minded, just looking at it strictly. And then you broaden it and you look at everything around it, the seasons prior, the games prior, anything, the entire season this year in general. And you accumulate that all into your answer and what you're going to give. It's good to have a good balance. And this is where I'm a little undecided. How do we define the panic button right now? Because I don't personally think it's supposed to be touched, opened, whatever you want. That case should not be even in your thought, because that game should not be leading, at least for my opinion, should not be leading at all to a panic situation. I think there was so many other things wrong with the Leafs game that the panic button should not be it. Evan, I'm going to turn over to you just to get your thoughts on the game, the Colorado Avalanche, and let's give credit to them. They outskilled the Leafs and they outplayed the Leafs. They outscored the Leafs. That's pretty much the analysis of that game. But what did you make of the Avalanche in that one, the Maple Leafs, any player stood out to you? What'd you make of the game? And then we're going to get into the big stuff here where a lot of things are going to go off the handle.
Well, yeah, I think Colorado is a fantastic team, and I think they have easily the best defensive core. The trades Joe Sakic makes is just unbelievable. I was just looking at the stats when they acquired Devon Taves from the Islanders. He had, in 116 games played, he had about 46 points, and right now in about 57 games with the Avalanche, he's about 48 points. So it's just unreal as a defenseman, and to consider him as your 3rd or 4th best defenseman, and then you pull off that Sam Girard trade way back when you had giving up Matt Duchene, you've Cale Makar, and they also have Curtis McDermott that they got in a trade. I mean, he's a perfect 5th or 6th defenseman to have, just an absolute bully in front of the net. It's hard to get anything by him. But I just think overall, the Leafs, they had a 4-1 lead with 3 minutes left in the second period. And I don't care if Colorado's better. That's a game you need to close out. And when you look at the Leafs throughout the season, they seem to have struggles against the elite defensive teams. If you look at Pittsburgh, in the 2 games that the Leafs have played the Penguins, they've been outscored 9-1, and they got dominated. And I saw it firsthand when they lost 4-0 or 2-0. I mean, it should have been way more, except Jack Campbell is just playing unbelievable. And if you look at Colorado, they get dominated in the third period. They got outshot 19-5 in the third, which isn't good. And if you look at Tampa, even when they play them, I know that they won that one time in overtime off the power play, but You know, it was a bounce that got to Tavares right in front, and John Tavares is John Tavares. But I know that they're 22, 8-3, but when you really dissect it as their losses, it's just against teams that they're going to have to face if they do make it down the road.
And that's my sort of what I'm singing right now. That loss against the Colorado Avalanche, it's a loss on what? January 8th, 2022. Doesn't mean much for me in the long run because every team is due to have stinkers. The Leafs, obviously, we know they're infamous for those kind of stinkers, and you're going to have them throughout a season. The one thing I don't like, and I fully agree with you here, is the situation where they haven't gotten a lot of wins this year against big time opponents. They haven't faced the Florida Panthers yet, so we don't know how they're going to deal with their Atlantic rival. But when you're looking at the Tampa Bay Lightning, yes, they got that win earlier in the year, but in that game at home, that second game at home, I mean, they got absolutely manhandled. They got the better team won that game for sure. I remember us discussing it on the podcast earlier in the year. That was one game that stood out to me where against a cup contending team, a cup winning team, they've won the back-to-back cups. You come out flat. The Colorado Avalanche, they destroyed them on home ice, but in a game on the road with a loud, I don't even want to know what it's like down in Colorado for hockey. In that stadium alone, Ball Arena, let's not mention how bad that name is. No, it was rocking, and Sheldon Keefe used it as well in his post-game talk, and that one really bugged me as well. If you're using that as an excuse, I'm not a big fan of that, especially with the noise. And you can compare it all you want, but again, it's about beating these contending teams, and the Leafs simply didn't do a good job of that. I don't know, guys. I want you guys to dive right into what your thoughts are on the 4-1 lead. Is it time to flip open the panic button and start running shirtless in your own room? I don't know, or is it how do we take this game here? I think Evan said it in his own words, where it's a game against a contending team, you drop it and you blow a 4-1 lead, and it's more of an accumulations of leads that you've blown. Or you're looking at it like I do. It's a game in January, early January, and it just fell off the rails. Where do you guys stand on the blown lead? Because that's what's causing all the havoc on the Maple Leafs Twitter, on all of Twitter for real, and all the media as well. So let's get your slice on it. Aldam, I'll start with you, and we'll make our way around the horn.
I'm more like you, I think. I'll call myself more in the middle because they absolutely, if you are a contending team, I don't care if you're playing the NHL like legends in EA Sports, you need to close out a 4-1 lead. Full stop, full stop, full stop. That game needs to get closed out. But at the same time, we had no business being in it. So I'm more concerned that we're just not good enough to win the Stanley Cup if we're going to have to face them.
Mm-hmm. And they're going to be one that stands in the way if they can get past that second round, because I know that's their big kryptonite to face, and they got to get through that hurdle. But no, the Colorado Avalanche definitely is a team to look out for, like you said. And I don't know, like to me, the reason, and I'm going to ask you this, Adamo, is the reason why, and I'm in the same boat, we're in the same boat, we were discussing in our group chat about how we didn't feel, and for context, I started an absolute war between Evan and Jared. I really take it back. I just said, you missed it, man. You were asleep. And I started this war. I'm like, is it bad that I don't feel as horrible as I should do? Or should I be feeling bad? Like, am I crazy? Because this lead, is it because they weren't even in the game? I didn't think they were in the game. I don't know. I think I said enough in this podcast that I didn't think they were in the game. You said it yourself. Is it because I didn't think they were in this game that it doesn't feel as bad? Because usually when they blow those leads, they're usually in the game and they look good for almost all the game, and then it just quickly goes off the handles. Does that play a role in the reason why I'm feeling like this? A lot of Leaf fans are feeling like this, or am I just simply a crazy man?
No, you're 100% justified. I don't even view like we lost 4-1, but like I was trying to say, it doesn't even feel like we lost like we didn't blow a 4-1 lead. It just feels like we lost the game 5-4 because I feel like
I feel like I feel the same as if we were to win like 6-2, 5-3. I don't feel like
it was supposed to happen. And it happened. You know, it's not like I remember even the Ottawa game last year, was it 5-1 they blew? Holy shit.
Yeah.
That was a bad one. So
but
bad.
They were in
killing
control.
them.
Mm-hmm.
They were murdering them. And then see you guys. Let's just quit the game mid-second period. So
I think that's the line.
Justified.
I think that's the line you draw in the sand where it's like you're in control for the game. I think that brings and sways so much emotion with it. at least for me. I don't know. Every Leafs fan has their different opinions. We all know that if you've been scouting out online. But no, for me, if you're in control for the whole 40, 60 minutes or 59 of the 60 minutes, check out St. Louis's 2-1 loss to the Dallas Stars. They were,
Oh boy.
or sorry, 2-1 win
Two to
over
one
the
win.
Dallas Stars.
Yeah.
Yeah. They were in control for the entire game, Dallas. And then they had a one bad minute, screwed up my fantasy lineup and my fantasy matchup that week and screwed over the Dallas Stars, and coach was not happy whatsoever. But again, playing those full minutes, I think that takes away the pressure on a blown 4-1 lead. Jared, what were your thoughts on the blow? And like, I don't know, you go on and explain it, because I don't know if I can do any more justice with these weird segues. I'm trying to go around the exact same point over and over again.
Yeah, well, I definitely side more with you on the point where it's a game in January. It's shitty. I'm going to give you that it wasn't a good game. We didn't play well enough. However, I don't think it gives me enough reason to panic and call into question our team in total and call into question our chances when it ultimately really matters. I have liked our season up to this point. I agree with Evan's point where he brought up that we've had trouble against some really high caliber contending teams. So I think that is a very valid point. However, overall, I'm more going to side with you in the sense that it was a January game. It's shitty. Put it behind you, because in the end of the season, even the team that ultimately wins the cup is going to look back and have a few games where they found blunders. It's not about whether a team will have blunders, because that's pretty much bound to happen for every team in an 82-game season. It's more about, in my opinion, how you could kind of move forward after them. And I think the teams that ultimately find a way to win in the playoffs are those teams that learn to find success even after their failures. So I think that's more going to be the goal now, is going to be how we can move on from it. I'm not too concerned about the end result, because I think, like you guys mentioned, I think this very much should have been a game where, let's say it was like, it ended up being a 5-2 win by Colorado, whatever. I don't think it's getting as much attention online or as much panic. It's more the fact that, oh, we had the 4-1 lead, so on paper it looks really bad that we ended up losing it. But I think it probably should have been a Colorado win to begin with. Hypothetically, let's say they win it 4-2, 5-2. The game's in the bag. You don't win every game in a season. It's an 82-game season, and we're about 30-something games in. There's 50 games left. There's a lot of time to get it back, get a redemption. So I'm all on board for us kind of putting it in the back pocket, forgetting about it, like taking the lessons from it, of course, learning from it, talking about it in practice. But I don't think it should be something that really throws off your mental state, really gets you too stressed about the team, from if you're a player on the team or if you're a fan of the team. I don't think it's anything that should get us too panicked, because I think the panic is pretty unnecessary and is just purely because of the fact that, oh, on paper, blowing the 4-1 lead is bad, obviously. But if you kind of look at the game more for what it actually was rather than what the scoreboard said, it wasn't a deserved 4-1 lead. We were getting dominated all the way through, and ultimately the rightful team ended up winning it. Put it behind you. It's done for. That's kind of my analysis of it. Move on, get it back in Vegas.
And responsiveness has been something that the Leafs have done very well on. We've been talking about it extensively throughout the year. They've had some ugly games, blunders, again, all normal through any NHL franchise, and they've responded quite well. Maybe if you throw away that first part of the season where they were pretty mushy in the first 8 to 10 games. But again, they bounced back after that ugly stretch of games to start the year, and they've looked red hot since, putting up their best month in franchise history, and so many other wins included in that, so many good wins in that as well. So I think the responsiveness, we're going to see it be just the same. I don't think we're going to see anything change. I think they're going to come out fighting against Vegas, and I'm really scared to see them in Vegas, because I started also this weird debate where I don't like when the Leafs play in Colorado. Personally, for me, it's not something I like them seeing them play in. I always find out they come out flat, or they just end up dropping games. I looked up stats. My crazy mind does wander a lot. I am completely wrong. They play very well in Colorado, but for me, I don't know. I feel really weird about them when they do. Vegas, however, I know that is a fact. They played garbage since their very short-lived tenure in Vegas. That's going to be a big challenge, responding in. Evan, you've been there countless times. You can say how loud it is in there. Going from, and I said I hate this excuse, going from a dead arena to a loud one, but even if they were in a loud one at the Scotiabank Arena, going to a Vegas side would be detrimental. You do not want to hear those fans against you. I'm not going to ask you for... Yeah,
I just want to talk about, because I'm listening to your guys' points, and I completely disagree just with the fact that the games that they bounce back against, the Toronto bounce back against, like, they play a crappy team the next night. Like, if you look at that game, I'll go back to Pittsburgh, November 20th. I was there. They lost 2-0. And then the next day they go play the New York Islanders, who have 12 guys on COVID. and it's a 3-0 win in a game that they should have won. And then they go on the California road trip. We know California isn't as hot. And I was just looking at their schedule on my phone, and in the last 6 games that the Leafs have played against playoff contenders, they're 1-5. And the reason why they bounce back after a crappy performance is because they then play a worse team. Like they don't, this will be an interesting challenge for them because Vegas is a really good team. So this is their first time where they've actually, like, in a while, where they're like bouncing back against another team that's just as good as Colorado. I know that they have injuries, but I mean, Vegas is still built for the playoffs right now. And I'm looking at it like they lost 5-3 to Tampa Bay. They lost again to the Wild 4-3. You know, they're not responding. Like there's not a challenge for when they respond. So that was like the point that I'm trying to make, is that there isn't a tall task for them responding. Like this will be the first one.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, the schedule does present itself where this is going to be a big test. And I think for Leafs fans, you should be looking out. This should be circled on your calendar, seeing how they can bounce back against a competitive team. We haven't seen it all this year. Absolutely right. But Evan, they got to play the hand they're dealt, though. Like they can't they can't control that.
No.
Stuff, you know?
I'm not faulting them for that, but I'm
100%.
Like, I don't think the optimism should be there because they haven't had that challenge yet.
Right. Yeah,
like I'm not blaming them for saying, oh, like Gary Bettman, like maybe. No, it's just like you can't say that they bounce back well when it's against teams that they, like, regardless of what happened the night before, they should be beating.
Mm-hmm. No, 100%. And I really don't know where else to go. I mean, we've said so much about this blown lead, what to look out for in the upcoming days. Is there anything else that we have to say about this game? Because I don't know, Leafs fans are saying they're running in circles a lot, saying their points. You guys have all made it pretty clear, but I don't know. Is there anything deeper to this story? Because
gas it.
I don't know.
I think we've got.
I think we hit everything.
Yeah, we
Leaf fans chill. Like it's one game. Relax, chill. That's literally my mindset.
Can I say one thing? And Adamo, I know you have been. You're pretty bent on it.
Boys, wait, sorry.
Got breaking news?
Mark Masters just tweeted the Leafs power play unit line, the first line, and Marner isn't on it. He's not on
COVID.
COVID. My bad. Forgot. Either way, this tweet's just going to age well. It's just going to stay there.
Marner should be taken off power play one.
All right, well, there's the
segue.
Well, there it is.
I was about to say something, but go. Let's run away with it. There's the segue.
All right. Yeah, you guys.
We were having a discussion. Adamo has been pretty bent on this. I was going to say something else he's been bent on, and we'll save that for later in the show because it can still present itself. But let's go to this one for thanking Evan for this perfect segue. Mitch Marner and power play one, the story of Adamo Ramoli and how much he hates to see it. Adamo, your wish is coming true without seeing him on the power play one because of COVID. So you hate to wish that upon anyone, but we're seeing how it would happen in a regular sense. What do you make of it? And is your wish coming true, or is it be careful what you wish for here?
So I coming into the show, I'm like, yeah, like everyone knows I'm not a Marner guy. It's coming into the show, I'm like, oh, get Marner off. But then I came in, I said to Mario, I don't know if they should take him off power play one. But the reason I'm saying this is because they are not using Mitch Marner correctly. The reason Marner struggles on the power play is because I pray to God this clip doesn't blow up. Mitch Marner is a puck hog. And you're going to go, what? Huh? We had 90 assists, 94 points, 68 assists. You can be a puck hog and still get a lot of assists. And I know it's not the same sport, but I always bring up this comparison because I think of it. I don't know how much you guys follow basketball, but
yeah, I do.
John Wall, in my opinion, is a ball hog. Even though he averaged 11 assists and led the NBA in assists, your assists come from dribbling the ball, passing it out to an open shooter with like a second left in the shot clock, and he has to shoot. If he scores, he gets an assist. Mitch Marner's assists come from stick handle, force a low percentage pass, and if Tavares gets his stick on it, cool. If not, I turn over the puck, which he does far too often, and it's so inefficient. Thing with Nylander, who I think should be in that shooter spot, he is able to be, one, a shooting threat, which Marner is Very much not. I'm tired of he works on his shot every season. His shot hasn't improved a bit.
Golf shot.
It is not improved his shot. I don't care what he says. Shooting threat from there, but he's also probably better at making cross seam passes to Matthews or even Tavares in the slot, which is why I think Mitch Marner would be so useful down in not the bumper spot, but like the spot on the side of the net where he could feather passes across or maybe try to wrap one into the net, because I think that's more directed toward his skill set. He doesn't need to use a shot and he doesn't have to force a super long and hard pass. But I think the optimal way to fix this power play that doesn't even need fixing, it's more power play 2's been carrying, but it probably take him off and maybe put like a Kerfoot or Bunting. So I'm really bad at ending my points, but that's like really what I am thinking.
I just feel like if you I know exactly like the position that you're talking about of where to put him. I think that's worse because those passes are exponentially harder to make because.
But I think he's able to. I think he's still a good passer.
No.
He's
but
still a fantastic passer.
I don't know. Like, no, I get that, but that area, like, if you don't like, I understand that it's just a lot harder to make that pass, and like those passes end up being like more cut off than a cross ice pass because if you have a defenseman with a longer stick, it's so much easier to deflect that pass. I think he's more suited for like that middle slot area.
Like a bumper?
Kinda. Yeah, I don't know. I just think like that.
I think he's too weak for that.
I don't know.
So maybe he doesn't have maybe we're like talking ourselves into maybe he doesn't have a spot there. Cause I do kind of agree with what you're saying. I don't know if he could play down there either.
Like it was weird because like the way that they positioned him last year was like kind of like what Matthews does now, where he like skates around the blue line and then like Morgan Riley will find him as he's like cutting in with speed. And it works, but the thing is that then that winger can just play up because he knows that now Marner's coming down that left.
He knows the pass is coming too.
Yeah, he knows the pass is coming down that right side, and he knows that Marner's not going to shoot it because he has a muffin. So like. I feel like he would almost be better with that second unit. Because my whole issue with the Leafs is that they load their top unit. So like if there's a penalty when Matthews Matthews and Marner are on the ice for a long time, or Matthews and Nylander or Tavares and Nylander are on the ice for a long time, and then the power play unit you bring out to build momentum is like Engvall, Bunting, like Kerfoot, like they're great players, but I think you need a Marner there to like, because Bunting I really like, and Engvall, that was a great goal that he had a few games ago. I think he would be so much better with the second unit, and it's not like he's terrible, like Marner's terrible. Like he can make other guys, like he can make other guys better. I don't know. I just always noticed that the Leafs second unit is just exponentially worse than like I mean like name name
wise
like this season they've been better. Last season it was the first unit that was last year. That's why I'm just referring to last year where it was just like it looked like they had no place there. So I don't know. I just think maybe try it.
Should I throw the numbers out for the listeners?
And make sure to mention the Mitch Marner hasn't scored since before COVID.
Mitch Marner hasn't scored before COVID, and I did some even more researching. His last power play goal was a 4-on-3. The one before that was at 5-on-5 because the Oilers pulled their goalie. So his last power play goal came January 2nd, 2020. That's
but we said like he's not known for his
goals.
Almost
1,000 days ago, almost.
You don't have to be known for your goal scoring to pop one.
Yeah. How do you not accidentally score with John Tavares? And not even an accident, Mitch.
There's got to be an accident somewhere.
And then his goal before that came with Babcock.
But if you're
he
looking
scored
at
one
his
5-on-4 goal with.
But if you're looking at his skill set ability, it has never been like in juniors it was goal scoring, but when he got to the NHL, it was.
Well, he was always a playmaker. He just couldn't score.
No. I'm just saying in juniors he was able to like make.
He was playing against the kids.
Yeah, I know.
He was a kid too, though. To be fair.
Yeah, it's not, dude.
No, he played an overage year. He was like 19 or 18 playing with like 15-year-olds.
Yeah, I don't know. I just you're right though. Like he should at least be able to like somehow get one by
like an accident, man. Can I actually put the
Bring
numbers out?
bring out the nitty gritty, man.
Because I got the okay. So, so the power play with Matthews, Nylander, Tavares, Riley, and Marner have scored 8 goals with 57 minutes time on ice. A power play unit with Matthews, Nylander, Tavares, Riley, and no Mitch Marner have scored 10 goals with 16 minutes on ice.
Yeah, Mitch is a puck hog.
What did you say?
So you don't know how to end your point, but you really know how to bring them together, eh?
What do you mean?
Because it backs it up pretty well. No, I'd say so.
Well, yeah, I know, but I'm trying to but the reason is, like I said, whenever that big five plays together, we insist on Mitch Marner playing the shoot in a shooter spot when he can very not shoot. And then you have, I feel so bad for Nylander because he's wasted. He has wasted talent there. This guy could be a 50-goal scorer if he wanted to. If we threw him with Matthews and Nylander on the 2 half walls, like Matthews one-timer, Nylander one-timer, oh my God, who's stopping that? Who's stopping that? No one's stopping that. You give the puck to Mitch Marner on at the dot, he's gonna maybe take a half clapper and it's gonna go right in the goalie's chest, or Tavares is maybe gonna get a tip on it. It's never gonna go in. How many times Steven Spezza's beating a goalie from there? Spezza's murdering goalies from there. Ilya Mikheyev is beating a goalie from there. Like how? I feel bad at the same time for ripping on Marner, but dude, you're getting paid the big bucks. I don't know if we want to segue there too. Mario?
I do want to stay. I want to stay a little bit on this one, and we have to credit the Maple Leafs in the way they've run the power play this season compared to a train wreck of a last year's power play. They are first in the league with power play percentage at 30.9%.
Really?
They're first in the league, man. So they're doing something right. And
sounds a lot like last year.
It's called the second unit.
It does sound a lot like last year, but last year was
like last year.
It went. Oh, don't bring this up. That's we're tempted to rename our group chat that.
I hope that doesn't happen.
No, but no. I thought last year went downhill a lot more sooner. I think I'm seeing a lot more, at least sustainability. You got to see, like, it's 33 games that they've had one of the better power plays. Let's give them credit. That second unit looks great. It's not like it's uneven. Name wise, it's uneven, but they're producing at almost the same rate. So let's give credit where credit's due. We got to show some love for the power play team because we've shown so much hate in previous years and previous episodes.
They're also finally not giving up so many shorthanded goals like they did last year.
That was brutal. That was brutal. Hey, they scored some more shorthanded goals too this year too. I don't have the stats in front of me, but from the eye test of what I've seen, they've been potting a lot of them, at least more than I've seen normally. They had 2 against Ottawa. You never see 2. I haven't seen 2 in the same month.
Justin Hall scored a shorthanded goal.
Starting the new year off with 2 shorthanded goals.
That was so interesting that Justin Hall
starting off 2022.
Increased trade value.
Oh, yeah, crank that trade value up. That's exactly it.
Oh, are we segueing?
I don't know. Do you guys want to spend any more time on the Jared, you haven't had anything to say.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I just want to say, I did say briefly, I mean, I do think you have to at least try Marner on power play too, because he's not getting the production that you expect that he should be able to get on power play 1. It just, the fact that he hasn't scored one since before COVID, it's obviously not working. I feel like these guys know more. I don't know. They're able to tell you about the bumper and the way, like, they know more about the specific positions that maybe he would be better suited for on the power play. I don't personally have that knowledge. I guess it just comes, they played a lot higher level hockey and stuff like that. But whatever. I think Marner, he's a very talented player, and I'm all for Mitch Marner. However, he hasn't been able to get the production that you'd expect on power play 1. So try him on power play 2. I think it's very simple. It's try him out and somewhere, and hopefully you get production from him. If not, maybe you put him back on power play 1, but find a different position for him there. I think, as much as I'm not for, just move Marner everywhere and throw off everything else, you have to keep what's working together. However, you do have to find a way to get your $11 million player to be productive. Like, if he isn't being productive, then he isn't being utilized right. And I think you have to move him around to find a way to make him able to produce. And I think that starts with taking him off power play 1, move him to power play 2, and find a way that he can put the puck in the back of the net or be a playmaker, which we know he's capable of doing, but just hasn't really done amazingly on the power
And I mean, it just goes to like the Leafs power play, as you just said, is totally it's terrific this year, first in the league. You have room to play with whatever you want. Like you can move guys around. If it doesn't work, you just switch it up again and go back to the regular one and just Marner doesn't score. So be it. It's going to be a problem facing when you need those kind of goals from other sort of guys from production, like those games against those contending teams that we've been talking about. You're going to need some guys to step up. Mitch Marner, yeah, you're great at 5-on-5, but you need to step up on teams like the Colorado Avalanche, who on the power play are absolutely disgusting, and they're skill guys. That five exactly. They know how to do whatever. They could do whatever they want. The production runs through each and every one of them.
The difference with the Avalanche, though, is that even their second unit would kill most teams' first unit. Like, oh my God.
Yet the
Joe Sakic, GM of the century.
Go on, Adam.
Is Marner that good at 5-on-5 though?
Well, you could tell me different. Listen, I'm an eye test
his games.
Dude, 13 out of his 26 games, he's had a primary point in. Or a point in. Not even primary point in. A point in. Alex Kerfoot has more 5-on-5 points than him.
So what does Mitch do?
It steals money from the Leafs.
Secondary assists.
There's a segue into Mitch Marner. Put the wanted name. Let's put the wanted sheet right out for him. Let's rip on Mitch Marner for a little bit, because I don't know if he's deserving of it, but Adamo seems to pull up stats from which ends of the earth that can prove me wrong. I thought he did do well in 5-on-5.
No, he does. I'm fucking with you. He's still pretty good. Okay. But the production isn't as good as you think, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, this season, but in general, like, he's a great player. Right now, he has 21 points in 26 games, so it's not bad, but it definitely needs to be better for the price tag we're paying. I'm 100% it needs to be better. I
think the reason we're having this argument, though, is the emergence of Jack Campbell. That's at least my reasoning.
Yeah, because we have to pay him.
Does play a role. Does play a
He
factor.
needs a contract. He needs a contract. Sandin needs a contract. Kerfoot needs a contract. Spezza needs a contract.
I don't think they're gonna
$7 million to do it.
I don't think Spezza is.
Fuck it, Mikheyev needs one too, and Kasha.
Okay, well, I don't think Mikheyev or Spezza are on their long-term planning.
No, but it's still cap hit.
No, but Spezza, is Spezza a UFA after? He's a UFA after this year.
Yeah.
Okay,
we'll get league min.
Yeah, he's gonna get league min, but it's still $700,000.
Like that, yeah.
They don't have much to play with.
I don't think. Well, okay. Well, then, if you get before we got on, I was thinking of a bunch of trades that could free up cap space, and I was thinking, obviously, Justin Hall. I was thinking Nick Ritchie.
He's actually off the books next year, Justin Hall. So.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm just saying, like, for now, like, just to make it easy, like, get something in return for him, like, whatever the hell you can get. I was thinking him. I know you guys are. I was thinking Travis Dermott too. You could probably get some. You could get value for, because what are you going to pay him? Like, what do you have left to pay him? Like,
good, man.
No, I know he's good, but like when you're thinking on a business side, like you could probably a team probably could offer a second round pick for him. Like that would probably be the highest. I don't see any team offering a first. Yeah, I'm saying the highest is a second. Like I'm kind of sugarcoating that one.
Yeah.
I think Kasha would be a nice trade bait to get.
He's an RFA at the end of the season too, actually.
Yeah, like, and I think even Kerfoot. Like I'm just thinking of guys that are making, like, that are significant players, but that can then allow, because you're going to need to pay Jack Campbell starting goaltending money, and that minimum is set at $5 million. But the way he's playing right now, like. Look, all the credit to Jack Campbell, but he hasn't had a big contract. He's never made an exponential amount of money, and he's going to want to take advantage of it. And yes, the Leafs gave him the opportunity when they traded for him, and but I just don't think he's going to be as loyal to the Leafs as like a lot of fans think he. I'm just saying, like, if you've seen, like, even the way in other sports too, like guys.
Marcus Semien.
Yeah,
cashed in.
You know, I think him being American also has to be a factor. I don't think right?
No baseball player wants to play in Toronto.
No Americans want to play in Canada. I know Evan's different because you're like half Canadian.
No, but that's also
you're
just
half
because
Canadian?
of, like, I have citizenship. That's how I'm at.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
Learning
Canadian.
All right. So, but yeah, I'm just saying, like, they got to make. It's also just because of taxes. Like, that's the reason why Steven Stamkos didn't Like Steven Stamkos is getting paid I think 8.5 million by the Lightning, and he's making more money after taxes than Matthews is. So it's just, I just think Jack Campbell's gonna want, and if he is gonna stay in Toronto, he probably wants more money just because of taxes. Like he's gonna then lose. Like if he gets a $5 million contract in Toronto, after taxes and agent, that's probably gonna go down to 3 million. Like when you think about it.
Yeah.
So I just think they need to I think they're going to be very active at the deadline. And I just think it's just because you got to think long term here. Like they have so many 1-year deals that they got to hope to get at least something out of it.
I want to put a knot in the trade deadline talk. I'm saving that for later in the show because
No,
it's
yeah,
definitely warranted. No, but I want to stay on the topic of what's the possibilities that we're going to see. And it's weird that I'm jumping the gun here, but off-season stuff. Jack Campbell, you mentioned, is going to be the big prize that the Maple Leafs want to keep in their system. And I think they're going to pull some strings to make it happen. Am I wrong in saying that? Or
Well,
I don't know.
You know who I'd be
he's number one. You have to get him, keep him on your team. No,
you know who I'd be really curious about though? Is if Colorado makes some moves at the deadline, because Darcy Kemper's a UFA after this year.
Is he?
Yeah, he is. Or he has one more year left. One of the two.
I thought he just signed, no?
No. He has one.
They got a short-term deal.
He signed a short-term deal with the Coyotes, like a 3-year deal with Arizona. That carry. So
yeah. He's UFA after this. Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised, like, because the Avalanche need a goalie. They got Kemper just like as some insurance after losing Grubauer. But like, dude, they could trade like Nazem Kadri. When are you going to find a higher value for Kadri than
not a chance?
Then I'm just saying, like, I'm saying like down, like they got to think goaltending as well. Like, because Kadri thinks like at 4 million or something, but then you can just like spend like, then you can then just trade another prospect. Like that would just be so interesting to get to if the Avalanche
I know where you're going.
Campbell.
I know where you're going. I think that's an interesting idea, but you got to remember Toronto needs a goalie too. Like we can't attend.
It's a matter of if they can afford it. Like I don't. It's not a matter of.
You mean in the off season or this season?
I'm saying if Colorado makes a move now and
Not
that
a
kind
chance.
of like
Or the
segue,
playoffs.
For
Like you
Jack
think,
Campbell?
but they can acquire stuff like in return, obviously. But then think, because you got to think long term. Like,
Are you saying Jack Campbell trade this season?
No. I'm not saying Jack
Okay.
Campbell gets traded.
Thank God.
No. Sorry. What I was saying is that Colorado makes a deal of some sorts to clear up. This is like the stupidest thought that I could think of, but to clear up cap space for when Jack Campbell becomes a free agent and they have the cap space to sign him.
Ooh.
that's
interesting.
that's interesting.
Like how intrigued, like, because what I'm saying is that Nazem Kadri's value is probably not going to be any higher than what it's at right now. Like, you don't think that they could at least get, like, Blake Coleman was traded for 2 first-round picks when he got traded to Tampa Bay.
Mhm.
You don't think the Avalanche could get 2 first-round picks? And they have the depth. Like, they have New Hook. They have the center depth there and the wing depth that, like, the one thing that they're missing is a goaltender. And, like, how intriguing is that you're playing in front of that team?
Oh, man. Can you not? I don't want to see Jack Campbell in another jersey. I think that'd hurt.
I don't think he will. I don't
Like,
think
I
he will.
seriously, I put out another tweet. You
I
follow
think
me
he
on Twitter, it's
will
fun.
if the money is.
I don't
like,
know if money speaks to him though. Is he
Are
that kind
you
of player?
serious?
I
Are you
don't know.
serious?
I think any type of person.
Dude, I'm not like, that's what I'm saying. When it comes to where Jack Campbell has come from and how hard he's had to work in order to get to where he is now, he
in
would
it for the
take a
money.
deal, like probably besides Buffalo, because no one wants to go to Buffalo.
It's a
Like,
no-brainer
even-
to cash out. It's a
like, if-
no-brainer.
Oh my God, dude. Like,
I think I'm
even
being too
Max-
naive.
You
though.
saw like
I
Max
am being
Scherzer.
very naive in this.
Like,
No,
you-
I saw Lorenzo Insigne do it to my own
Insigne.
team.
Like, I'm just
Only
saying,
took
like,
2.5
guys,
more.
yeah, guys in all sports, like if someone offered Jack Campbell, let's say we'll give you 6 years, 7 million. You don't think he's like just gonna say yes and cash out?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I don't think any team will, but I think if there is a team to do it,
If he's playing the way that he's playing consistently until the end of the year,
Maybe,
he's
man.
definitely getting 6.5.
maybe he gets
from
like a
some-
Markstrom 6x6 contract.
I think he's a little bit older I think he's a little too old for that.
He's only 30.
I know, that's what
I
I'm
say
saying. I
only,
think he's a
but-
little too old for that.
What? Yeah,
I don't think no.
But you
I,
remember he's a UFA too, right? Teams aren't very smart when signing UFAs. Like we signed Patrick Marleau to a 3-year contract at the age of 40, so or like 38.
yeah. I'm just saying with goalies, it's different though.
Goaltender market
Yeah.
is very slim right now. Teams
And-
want a
Oh,
goaltender
man.
on their team.
Like
Yeah.
I don't know. I that's what I'm saying. I don't think Jack Campbell's paying any loyalty. It's a matter of who's
shouldn't.
giving me the most money. And like
I don't
Leaf
think he
fans
should.
shouldn't be
I
upset.
don't think he
if
should either.
leaves.
No. Look at the team you're playing on. None of them gave they never gave a penny. Not I'm not.
Oh,
I'll
Morgan
shit on Nylander.
Riley did. Morgan Riley did.
Riley did because he's a sweetheart and I love him. But Tavares did too because he's a sweetheart and I love him. Matthews squeezed them for every penny. Nylander squeezed them for every penny.
But
Don't
that
even get me
Nylander
started
deal is
on the
looking
Toronto
like,
boy.
but the Nylander deal's
Nylander
looking
deal is
really-
fantastic. Don't get me
It's
Looks
wrong.
looking-
amazing.
It's a fantastic contract in hindsight, but like at the time, he squeezed them for every penny. Like
He did.
if he took a discount, imagine we had Nylander at like 5.5. Holy shit!
Well,
I
it's
was thinking
like-
about that.
Well, like I know, like we want to talk about this on the later episode, but it's like Arizona and Jacob Chikrin's at like he's at 4.5, and he still has 4 years
Save
left on
that.
his deal.
Save that.
Let's
That's a
keep that in the
fantastic
back
deal.
pocket.
Yeah, I
But
was
like
saying,
what I
like-
was saying, look at the team you're on, Jack. These guys didn't give an inch to play with you, and why would you, some American dude from Michigan, gonna take a discount to play in Toronto?
Well,
Why
in
would you do
his-
that?
In the defense of the Leafs players, they signed those contracts before he was traded to.
No, but I'm saying that's their attitude. Their attitude is, I'm not
Yeah,
going to
he
give
makes
a
a
penny.
good point. Yes.
Yeah, I
I'm not-
get it.
So why
Yeah,
would you
that's
give a
what I'm
penny,
saying, like,
Jack? You're signing up for objectively the hardest position in the entire National Hockey League.
in the worst.
Goaltender
in
for
the
the
Leafs
Toronto
goaltender.
Maple Leafs. You're like, and it's he's lucky he's like the nicest guy on earth, or else if he has a bad season, we're ripping this guy to shreds. Because that's just how it works. Freddie Anderson was run out of town, and boom, he's in Carolina now, and he's like a not Vezina candidate, but he's probably back to being like a top 10 goaltender.
Yeah,
Go on.
no, I've talked about. I was just saying. I just thought of it now. Like I'm looking at Kadri. He's having a career year. I don't know. Obviously, he's a great depth piece to have, but when you look at the Avalanche's farm system, it's probably number 2 behind LA. Like they just have so many pieces.
Pick up LA. Hey, Ottawa's pretty good too.
I know. I'm saying. I think one is I think Ottawa is third, but
Oh.
regardless, I just think that if they're thinking long term, Darcy Kemper isn't like ideal, but I think it could be interesting when you're looking at Campbell, like Jack Campbell. If the Colorado Avalanche got Jack Campbell in the offseason, like they're winning the Stanley Cup. No, like I would put money on them winning the Stanley Cup as soon as the odds come out. I just think that would be.
And if I could bring maybe some silver lining out of blown leads, I know we've been talking about it a lot. If we didn't blow a lead against the New York Rangers, we would never have gotten Jack Campbell. If you guys remember, we traded for a goaltender because we desperately needed one because Freddie was down.
Blew a lead.
Garrett's-
I think it was more because
We blew a lot of tires around that
Did we?
stretch of games.
I mean, I believe
we blew
you. It
leads.
was-
We
bad.
blew. We got scored on really bad against the New York Rangers. Maybe that's not a lead, but they blew a bunch of leads with Hutchison in there. We got Campbell out of it, and this is where this discussion takes us, which is I don't know. I thought it was interesting to point out. I don't know. Do you guys want to spend more time on Campbell, or I want to just say one more thing about the offseason, get your takes on it, because Jack Campbell could very well be included in this as well.
I'll probably end up saying what I have to say when you. So
I think you will.
Mhm.
I want to ask you guys, probably the last thing we'll be saying about this offseason. Leafs don't have a lot of money to do things and make any transactions with. That's a fact. Who are you okay with cutting off from the books? Trying to get rid of.
I'm pretty cutthroat. Can I go? Okay, so let's
pretty
start.
blunt.
Let's start in goalie. Not you, Jack. I love you. Mrazek, sorry, bud. 3.8.
Yeah.
Can't.
That was a
can't
big
eat
question
you.
for me.
See ya. Turns
I
out
don't usually
Justin
like to
Hall.
toot my own.
Justin Hall isn't even. Yeah, you were 100% right on that. I was 200% wrong. But continuing, Justin Hall actually has another year on his deal at $2 million. See ya. His D partner actually has 2 more years at making 5.6. That's an interesting one I wanted to bring up. Jake Muzzin. That's not a good contract anymore, man. There's no way that guy is worth 5.6 million.
So he's
Agree,
out of
disagree?
I agreed, but are you saying he's out of there as well? They're a package and they're gone?
If you're not gonna move 16, then you kind of have to. It's one or the other. There's no way
So either you get it all done at once with 16, or you kind of
Yeah,
combine a bunch of
'cause
things
then
and make something work.
You got to move Richie. You got to move Hall. You got to move probably Kerfoot. Probably got to move Hall. I said Muzzin, Mrazek. So there are some bad contracts on this team.
Yeah, I also have another bad contract that's on that team.
If you
Oh,
say
he
Travis
sits up-
Dermott, I'm gonna
No,
grab
no,
you
no, no,
too,
no,
but
no.
Okay.
He sits in the fucking press box in a suit and tie and watches this team every night. Kyle fucking Dubas
Oh
is
my
probably out of there.
God.
I'm
Really?
joking. No, I'm joking now, but like I guarantee you that if the Leafs don't make it past the first round this year, I'll bookmark it. He is out of there as the next day. Next.
I don't know about next day, but I
Next.
agree. Like
No. I legit mean the next
Yeah,
fucking day.
probably.
Like I'm saying, he gets his sleep
Probably
in
making a
Toronto.
statement if they do that.
Well, I'm just saying the night that they lose in the first round, he's packing his bags, and Shanahan is saying "Hasta la vista."
You know, I think they take a more mature approach to that. I don't think they do it the next day.
Hockey's
Yeah,
not
that's
like
like a
football.
movie.
Okay, I might be like a little bit,
They'll
but I'm
probably
saying
give
like
him like a week to propose.
within the
How are you going to
week,
fix this team?
he
No,
will
I'd
be-
say I think they'll give him a chance to like kind of almost fire him, but like here's your pit. Like you can apply for this job that you just got fired from, in the sense that
no.
he can
That should have been
prepare-
last year. That should have been.
I know. That's why.
Like,
Running
no,
out of
I'm being-
excuses, man. The ice only gets
No, like
thinner from here.
I'm being
he
dead
did
on
that his
this.
job. He did his
Like-
job by not moving Marner, or one of the big four.
Like I'm so like certain that within 10 days, if the Leafs don't make it out of the first round, he's going with whoever else is leaving in free agency.
I'd probably can Keith too while we're at it.
Oh.
Why not?
No, I don't know.
If there's one to go, I think Keith should go before Dubas.
no, I think it should be
I'm
Dubas
not
before Keith.
I'm not a huge Keith guy. I think Keith is replaceable. I'm a huge Dubas guy, as you all know. So
I
I'd hate to see Dubas go.
I don't know. Like you're talking about all these bad contracts. The one that's negotiating them is the guy at like Sheldon Keefe.
They're not horrendous contracts. They're not like Lou Lamoriello signing Matt Martin to 4 years. Bad. Or I don't know. There's other bad contracts out there. It's not Jim Benning and like the entire
contracts all over the
Vancouver
league.
Canucks. Yeah, there's
No,
bad contracts everywhere.
Like
At
I
least
get
have
that,
a
but
couple.
that's like one or two on each team, not like
No,
7.
come on. We don't have like 7.
You have to give Dubas a bit of credit. I mean, he's
Okay,
amazing at
here,
trading.
I'll
He's
give you-
amazing at drafting. He does things well. He's not a good negotiator. I'll give you that, because he clearly is too nice and he gives people the money, every single dollar they don't even deserve. But
Yeah.
he's a great GM. I
That's why.
don't get the Dubas hate.
because if you're talking about bad negotiate, like I'm the recent moves he's made, it's just like something's got to move, and like they always say it's the coach, but sometimes it's the GM as well. And look, Sheldon Keefe tries to get the most out of his players, but it's hard when he's so like compressed with what he can work with because of the deals that Kyle Dubas is making, that is not allowing them to sign like more impactful players. And I also, if you want to talk about negotiating,
I'd argue against that, because on the flip side, Michael Bunting is making 900,000, Spets is making 700,000, Kasha is making 1.2, Kampf is making 2.5 with term. Jack Campbell has made 1.6 over 2 years.
Okay,
So
but then you
there are
look at,
bad contracts, but also Bunting's a steal, Kasha's a steal, Kampf is a steal.
I don't think Bunting's a steal, because it's not like he was someone hot in the market. Like
No,
he
but in
wasn't-
terms of right now, 900,000,
Like an age
I'd pay.
duel.
I'd pay
okay,
$2
but
million
that's
for him
not
easily.
something that like Kyle Dubas did. Like that's something
Yes,
that
he did. He
Michael
signed it.
No. But I'm saying like it's Michael Bunting's hard work that is making what Kyle Dubas did look like a nice deal.
Okay,
I'm
but
saying
you could also argue it's Justin Hall being fucking ass, making Dubas look like a bad GM.
but
like
I'm
there's- you know?
but I don't think but I just don't think that Justin Hall should be making that money
No,
regardless.
and
of
I
how,
didn't like the contract at the time either. But
but that's what
you
I'm saying.
can't
So
you can't say Dubas didn't get the Bunting contract. He knew. He had Bunting in the Sioux as well. Don't forget about that. Like, he's a
I
Sioux
get
guy.
that, but it's also like it's Michael Bunting was an AHLer who was playing minimal NHL games. Like,
Fair.
congratulations that he hit on that, but like if you're
He's
looking
doing
at,
it a lot. Look, he did the Kasha comp. I didn't even know he existed, and
but
I'd pay
Kasha's like,
1.5. You
I don't
can't
know.
say these are bad deals. These are steals.
They play their role
Objectively,
extremely
they are
well.
steals.
I wouldn't say they were steals. Like I would say a
Then
steal.
you can't call Jake Muzzin's contract terrible then, because it's not that bad. It's just not great.
Well, I just don't think 5 million is like what I would pay him, maybe 4 or even 3.75 for
Fair.
for what he's
fair.
doing. But
Yeah,
I'm saying, if
but
you
at
want
the
to, like,
same time, I'd sign Bunting right now for like 2.5. I'd give Kasha probably 3.
I wouldn't though, because I
Come on.
because they weren't like. But you're saying now. I'm saying at the time of the deal, I was like, okay, 900,000 is fair.
Well, yeah, you
because,
just said now to Jake Muzzin. At the time, 5.6
but I was saying
looks like a
before
steal
the
for
season
Muzzin.
started that it wasn't. Like I'm not saying. I was saying before the season started that it wasn't a great deal.
No, come
Yeah.
on. It wasn't a great deal, but 5.6 for at the time, Jake Muzzin played like our best defender. I
I
think
know.
it was
I was just saying.
fair.
I was saying before this season started, I wasn't liking. Like I thought they should have moved on from him before the season started. I said that with Justin Hall too. I said one of them had to go, but I don't like. If you're looking at Richie, like I was texting you guys, like there's a reason why Boston let him go. Like
You know,
he
they
was,
let Kasha go too. They untendered him.
well, that was because he was injured for like he didn't do anything with them. He was injured. Like
Hey, look at him now. Look at him on Toronto.
he's not like screaming at it, like he's not like
He's been good.
Come on. Give them
yeah,
some
but I'm
credit.
saying like with Boston, it's like what were like they didn't know what he was gonna do because they never got to use
Then
him.
why did Toronto know?
Toronto just needed guys
Kyle
to sign
Dubas.
because they
No,
can't.
Kyle Dubas, man. Kyle Dubas is a smart guy. He didn't just
No,
okay.
he's a great GM. He's an unbelievable GM, and
awesome.
as much as he's betting his career on this, like he's betting on his career for this team to go far in the playoffs. If they don't, I agree, you have to get rid of him. But it would be horrible, and I'd be sad about it because he's done a great job with this team, and you can't say he hasn't assembled a good team that
I don't think you
should
could
be capable of going far.
I don't think you could say he's done a great job with this team because the success isn't there.
That's
Like, I don't
not on
think
him though. That's not on him.
We had
That's
he's
on the
built the
players,
team.
man.
We
built
had this
the team.
discussion before before the season even started. Who do we blame it on? Players or Dubas? A lot of people said players. I said players myself. I
It's
don't
gotta
blame
be
it on
players.
It is playoff
Dubas didn't
success.
account
Isn't
for,
playoff success.
you know,
Isn't based
Matthews
off of
and
a
Martin.
GM.
Yeah.
Based off of the
Yeah,
players
well,
that
the-
execute or lack thereof.
No,
Yeah.
but like I look at the GM Brisebois in Tampa. Like the moves that he made were to get Blake Coleman, to get Barkley Goudreau.
Barkley
you know,
Goudreau was a terrible trade too, by the way.
but it worked out.
It worked out because they won the cup.
Yeah, they ended up
The
winning
Leafs
the cup.
didn't blow a fucking 3-1 lead.
No,
The Nick
no.
Foligno contract is looking like a great trade. Is looking like a great trade.
The Nick Foligno trade.
Yeah, that's looking like a great trade if the Leafs go far, like they should have.
Yeah, Foligno ends up being a part in us going on a playoff run. That's all being a GM is.
Like,
It's
I
basically
literally-
it's making
if-
a deal and betting your
Yeah,
career on it.
if a
And the team
knee
that
I
we
don't know.
go- your
If
GM
a knee didn't
was
go
the
through
genius.
Tavares' head, if knee didn't hit Tavares' head,
I'm
that
just
Foligno
saying.
contract or the trade is looking good.
I'm just saying when success doesn't happen, they look at the front office first before they look at
Yes.
anything else. And that's why I'm saying I think Kyle Dubas, I think it's also just because they need I think they just it's the
A
same
new
thing with
voice?
like why Paul Maurice stepped down. I just think they need a new voice. Like they just need someone, else. And regardless, even if, let's say the Leafs made it to the second round or they made it to the third round, I still don't think it's a good trade with Foligno because you gave up a first round pick for a guy that you couldn't even re-sign.
Same with
At the-
Goudreau.
at the-
Goudreau
at the time,
re-signed
the
though.
goal was
He's a fourth
Go-
liner.
No. But I'm saying Goudreau re-signed with Tampa.
So it wasn't good.
He was with the role that he was given, which is why.
Fair. Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that regardless of success of one season, if you knew you couldn't re-sign Nick Foligno, you shouldn't have given up one of your first round picks in order to get him. That's what I was saying. That's why that's a bad deal. It's not a great deal, even if the Leafs made it to the second round. Hallelujah. It's still a bad deal because you couldn't re-sign him.
I want to I want to jump away from Kyle Dubas. We've spent we spent a lot of time on this GM, and we're asking hypotheticals of if his job's at stake in July, and we're in January, not even halfway through the season. We don't even know how the season's going to play out.
His job's at stake in April, not July.
Oh, goodness. Anyways, let's put the Kyle Dubas talk, kick it down the road. We'll discuss it in a little bit because there's nothing he can do. Team's playing terrific right now. Maybe throw away that last game, but in the grand scheme of things, on record, on paper, on point percentage, whatever you want to look at statistically, they're having a great season. So let's just chill out on Kyle Dubas. What he's done in this last offseason has worked wonders. We can all agree on that, at least, because all the contracts he has signed, when he threw a bunch of things at the wall and saw what stick, everything is sticking and staying on that wall for quite a while. And some contracts may very well stick around for quite a while as well. So let's stay away from Kyle Dubas and hang on him just now. I want to move, and I was going to get back to the offseason, but I want to move now to something that's quite sooner than the offseason, can maybe even shape up what the offseason is for the Toronto Maple Leafs. The trade deadline is probably going to be the last thing we talk about on this show. It's fast approaching. I believe it's in, if I'm not mistaken, March, late February. When's the trade deadline in the NHL?
In and around there.
In and around
Usually
there. You know when
Yeah.
it's around. Your phone is blasting on repeat. So many tweets coming around. And let's see if those tweets, or do you guys think that some tweets will be Leafs related? Are the Leafs going to make any big splashes or any splashes at all in the trade deadline? They have a good roster going right now. There is places that 100% need improving. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, defense. That is something that I've been hearing off of just about everyone's mind, saying that the Leafs need to improve. The goaltending is there. You got what they still somewhat weirdly enough call a tandem. I don't care what that you say. That is not a goalie tandem in Toronto whatsoever. Goaltending, you don't got to worry about. The forward group, I personally believe their depth is pretty adequate. They can roll with some of the better teams in the league depth-wise. And I'm sure we're going to see it down the stretch when they play some better teams even more. But I think defense is the big question. Do you guys see them going for a defenseman, and a big one at that? I know Jacob Chicken we were discussing, and I wanted to move into this segment, especially because his name has been thrown around the trade rumor. But what Arizona is asking for him is astronomical. People have went towards the words of Jack Eichel-like return that they want for him. You believe it is fair that they want Jack Eichel like return for a guy like Jacob Chikrin?
Oh wait, yeah. Do you want me to say?
Oh no, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, all right, yeah. Because if you look at his skill set and you look, I think the main reason why they want it is because of his contract. He can easily be a number one defenseman on any team, and I think he has 4 years left on his deal, somewhere around $4.5 million AAV, and that's incredible. Like
incredible deal.
Like that's the reason why I don't think they'll get like 3 first-round picks like what Buffalo got for Jack Eichel. I think they were saying that as like our target is around 2 first-round picks and one of your top prospects. And look, I think I know I say it all the time, but I think like a team like LA and Anaheim would be perfect for him. Just because what they're losing, Drew Doughty's obviously getting up there in age in LA. They need another number one defenseman. And Jacob Chikrin would be the perfect number one to have there, especially with all their younger guys coming up. If you look at Anaheim, imagine Jacob Chikrin with Jamie Drysdale. And then you also just got everyone out, like Hampus Lindholm's there. Josh Manson's there. They got some more defensemen coming up with San Diego. I wouldn't be surprised if Montreal did a move, with Shea Weber retiring. I think that would be perfect. But I think it's fair because of his cap hit. That's why, because Jack Eichel is making $10 million because it's Jack Eichel and he deserves it. But with Chikrin, they just got like his contract has aged well.
100%. That's the thing that I'm little, it sort of evens out the argument. When you're looking at that contract, the money and cents, the dollars and cents that he's making rather, you have him also locked up for, I believe, is it 3 more years, 4 more years?
4. Well, I think 3 years after.
3 years.
This year.
3 years after this year. So you have some decent term for a defenseman, and for the window that the Maple Leafs are in right now to compete, that 3-year window speaks volumes. I think you're in a good spot when you're looking for a defenseman for the Leafs in that sense, but the Leafs don't have to make a rental this year, which they've done in the past. Nick Foligno was one that they gave up something. I'm not saying like a Jack Eichel return, but they gave up a first-round pick and a couple other decent pieces in that deal for Nick Foligno. They couldn't keep him. So I don't got to worry about that problem with Jacob Chikrin. Adamo, do you see anything stirring with Jacob Chikrin and the Toronto Maple Leafs? And are they willing to give a second year in a row another first-round pick? Because I don't know if you have the pick count in total and right in front of you, but I know it's not very high for a Maple Leafs team that we've seen have high pick counts in the past.
If I were Kyle Dubas, I'd probably steer clear of Jacob Chikrin because I don't think he's that good to where you're going to overpay him. I think he's probably like a number 2 to number 4 defenseman on a good team. I don't think he's a number 1, but I think the max I'd pay for him is like Dermott, Amarov, and a first. Even that's kind of steep.
That sounds pretty, yeah.
See, that is pretty steep,
but it's on the cheaper end of what Arizona's looking at. That's the crazy thing about it.
Yeah. Well, at the same time, I want $1 million, and I'm probably not going to get it. But meet me halfway, type of thing. I think that's how you normally negotiate things. I don't think they're going to get an Eichel like return, but I can see. I don't think Toronto's going to do it just because Jacob Chikrin is having such a bad season. It's actually incredible, and I know he's on Arizona, but holy fuck, you're a minus 29.
Dude,
2 goals this season.
Bro, do you see his goalies? They are not NHL ready.
Why is Shane Gostisbehere not that bad?
Dude, I don't know, man. He's not on the ice enough to have a shittier.
Chikrin had not a lucky season last year, but I don't think Jacob Chikrin of last season is actually Jacob Chikrin. When you shoot 4 times your career shooting percentage as a defenseman, shooting percentage is mostly luck as a defenseman because you're just wiring shots from the point. It's just if they happen to go in or not. And he was getting goals last year by that. And lo and behold, we think he's this number 1 defenseman making 4.5, when in reality, probably a number 3 guy, which is still good to have. He's 24 years old, I think. But he's 7 points, 26 games, minus 29. Holy cow. I'd probably stay clear of him.
Well, Quinn Hughes was a minus 24 last year. What are you going to do?
Yeah, Quinn Hughes, we know is good. Quinn Hughes didn't have a lucky season.
Well, I mean, so the contract situation, again, like I said, is interesting with Jacob Chikrin. John Klingberg also has a pretty interesting situation brewing down in Dallas as well. He's the second defenseman. I'm going to get to you, Jared, right now, because I just want to maybe get your thoughts on Jacob Chikrin and maybe even compare him to John Klingberg, and who would you rather take out of the two? So John Klingberg, I just looked up his contract. I believe he has a cap hit of 4.25 million, if I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So I don't know what you make of the contract there, but the main story around him right now is that he is not happy with Dallas. He wants to get out of there. He doesn't think he's getting treated well. I don't have the exact quotes in front of me, so I'm not going to quote him. But he's
upset about he can't get a contract. He wants 8 times 8.
Yeah,
which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I have never really followed Dallas, so I could just pull up the stats right now. I don't know how John Klingberg is in reality. Did he have a one-off good year? Is he?
No, he's not 8 times 8.
He had one great year where he put up 67 points. But
was that when they went to the finals that year? Was it that same year?
No.
Okay.
No.
So I guess we're looking at 2 pair of defensemen here that have not shown any
sustainability. He put up 67 points in 2017-2018 season.
Okay.
It hasn't touched 50 since.
Mm-hmm.
But he's been on.
But he hasn't played as many games.
Yeah, true.
Like he has 17 points in 27 games, which isn't terrible for
it's solid.
That's really good for a defenseman, and he's not taking penalties either. Like, but 8 times 8 just isn't.
And when's his contract up? I'm assuming this year, considering he's upset with it. So, Jared,
because he just wants that now. Like he wants it.
I'll go to you right now. John Klingberg, do you take him and you want to? I think personally he's the better defenseman than Jacob Chikrin, and it's now you're looking at now contract speaks even more volumes. You're looking at Jacob Chikrin, you could take a chance on him, pay much more for him in respect to assets, and receive more like long-term tenure. I think you get 3 more years. Or you go to John Klingberg, you got 2 more years, but you got the better defenseman. And I don't know if you have to give up as much. You're gonna have to give up some youth because Dallas is an older team and they're getting only older, so they're requesting youth in bunches. So you're gonna have to give up not a similar haul, but similar in the sense that you're giving up prospects, stuff that's much younger. So where would you go in this situation, or would you just stay blank and keep it as is? What's your thought process if you're the GM that's apparently hated on this show, Kyle Dubas? If you're him, what is your thoughts heading into the trade deadline? Are you taking a chance on any of these 2 defenders? Or are you going somewhere else, maybe improving depth on the forward group, or are you sticking to your guns, maybe shopping for another defenseman in the league?
Well, it's tough because hypothetically, if you do go the Klingberg route, it has to be a rental. There's no way on top of having to sign Jack Campbell, you're now also going to have to sign John Klingberg. Like, that's just not happening, especially at the cost he's asking for. So I think that one's very tough. We were to end up getting him, as much as I think he would be beneficial. I think, like, if we were to get him as a rental, I think as much as he'd be expensive, it would be a similar situation. So obviously we'd be giving up a lot more than Foligno, but the same example where it would be, we're giving up a lot for him. And if we end up falling again in the playoffs, we're going to look back on it and we're going to be like, that's shit. But if we end up going on a miracle run, then, oh my God, Dubas is a genius. That's just how being a GM works. I don't think it'll happen. I think that's way too big of a name value guy. That's the guy in the media. That's the guy being talked about right now. So of course, all the articles are going to be written, but I don't think it's going to end up happening. If we do that, I think it'll be crazy. It's a big name and someone to insert into our defensive core, but there's just no way I could see us bring them back. So for that reason, I think it's ultimately going to be too much to give up. Even in the turn of Jacob Chikrin, I just don't really see it happening. I think there's too many teams that are going to be having their eye on him. I don't think Toronto's necessarily going to have enough to give up because, again, we're a buyer. We're a team that's going to be hoping to go on a long playoff run. And if we were to get a defenseman like that, we'd have to give up a lot. And that the thought of Dubas there is going to be, but if we give up too much, that can maybe take away from our team more than add to it. So I honestly think both are pretty unrealistic. They're just kind of the biggest names in the market right now. And for that reason, that's why, of course, like Toronto's always going to have their name tied into those players just because, I mean, big fan base, big name player in the market. Toronto's getting them because that's just how it always works. I don't really think that's what's going to end up happening here. I think you're right. Defense is definitely the way to go when it looks to add to Toronto going into the playoffs. I mean, of course, Campbell's solidified as the starter for the playoffs and is our starting goaltender. So the goalie isn't as much of a worry. Maybe if you could find the right deal there, this is the time to get rid of Mrazek. I mean, I would say wait until the off season. But if you could find the right deal, I mean, never too early to really get rid of him. Just get the contract off the books in order to free up space for signing another player. Maybe you want to look to add one or two pretty cheap, inexpensive depth forwards. But of course, the main area where we need to improve, not even improve because we haven't necessarily been bad, of course, other than Muzzin and Hall who need to pick it up. But defense is the way to improve. I don't exactly have a name off the top of my head if it isn't Klingberg and Chikrin, because I think those are the obvious two names, but I don't necessarily think that's going to happen. I just think that's unrealistic and we have to give up too much in both directions. So I don't think that's really going to happen, but defense is the way to go for sure. I'm going to look around a little bit. So I'm going to stop talking here, but I'm going to try to find a name for you because I think few names, I guess, that are kind of being thrown around just in terms of getting somewhat close to trade deadline. Not really. We have still a month and a half left till we get there. But as we get closer, I imagine names are definitely going to get thrown in the mix. So I'm going to try to look for a name that I can see being worthwhile because it has to be, I think the check boxes you have to click is cheap. It doesn't necessarily matter age to me, but I think they have to kind of fill more of a defensive role. I think that's a big factor as well. Like I'm talking more TJ Brody-esque as opposed to more Morgan Riley-esque. So more of a defensive guy, not with a big contract, and hopefully someone who's not asking for too much because we can't really have Dubas throw apart the whole roster in order to get this one player. So it has to be smart. I don't think our team is screwed over the way it is right now, so I don't think a move has to be made. However, it's always nice to add to your team before the playoffs. So I'd love to see kind of what we end up doing. It'll be very interesting for sure.
Yeah, so it's like the offseason sort of where you have so many filters that you have to play with if you're Kyle Dubas, that you have to work around that. Even last trade deadline, they had a lot of filters to work out, even though they were in put all the poker chips in the middle and full send it like they did with Nick Foligno. We're not going to see that this year. And if Kyle Dubas is smart and wants to keep his job, he will know not to take a massive chance on guys like John Klingberg or Jacob Chikrin. I personally think that's the way he should go. He has been very successful, as we have praised him for, on throwing things, small contracts, cheap deals, going out, scouting, finding other smaller pieces and putting them in lineup, and they're working. Like I mentioned, throwing things to the wall and seeing what sticks. Do we see that keep up now, or do we even have a choice? I think we're going to have to see that sort of keep up for Kyle Dubas. And Adam, I'll turn it over to you, and then Evan, I'll throw it over to you right after. Is there any names, and I don't want to throw this on you, we haven't really had too much trade deadline things to prepare. I don't got a full list of players in front of me, some steals that they should go after. We'll be getting to that, don't you worry. But any players that jump right off the sheet where the Leafs should maybe lean towards looking, or are you going to maybe take the side of what filters they got to like sort of set on players and go from there?
Glad you asked, Mario. So this player that I had in mind as Jared was talking is on a rebuilding team, which could use futures. He is a defenseman. He is 25 years old. He plays pretty solid defense, I'd say. He's been linked to the Leafs plenty of times. It's Vince Dunn. He is on a 2-year contract.
I like that. I like
$4 million remaining. He could play left and right. He's adequate. He's put up 35 points in 82 NHL games one time, and I believe he's a Toronto boy too. I could be mistaken. Peterborough, not quite, but Ontario boy. I think that'd make a lot of sense just because Seattle's clearly rebuilding. They should be rebuilding because they suck.
It's the
They
first
suck.
year.
We'll work our way around it.
Well, they should rebuild. Why would you shoot to be mediocre when you don't have a good team? I think Vince Dunn would be the perfect defenseman because, like you said, he has that defensive, prowess, and he could probably play power play too. I don't know if we'd want to take it from Rasmus Sandin because it's been solid, but if Morgan Riley or Sandin go down, he could 100% play power play. He plays penalty kill in Seattle. He like all situations guy, phenomenal skater. I think he's like the perfect guy for Toronto.
What do you see the return maybe heading their way? And I think, is it not Ron Francis in the seat for the Seattle Kraken right now?
Yeah.
So he's a pretty easy guy to work around. Look at that off season that he had failed to maybe do what we thought he would do, like the Vegas Golden Knights did not take a page out of their book, not at all. So what do you see maybe going the other way to Seattle if this hypothetical trade were to happen? Because I personally do believe it's a great idea for Toronto, and I think it's something they should definitely pursue.
I think the main NHL piece in return is probably Travis Dermott, just because they're extremely similar players. You wouldn't give up Dermott?
No, I'd give up a 4th round pick.
For Vince Dunn?
Yeah, like he's nothing special in my opinion.
That's the thing. He's nothing special. We don't need a guy who's extremely special. We need a guy who can
special.
But
Travis Dermott isn't special either.
Here's the issue with Vince Dunn. You can get a third, like if you're talking about rebuilding, you can just give up a 3rd or 4th round pick for him. Like
there's no way.
But not every deal. No. Not every deal in the NHL
surprised.
needs to be player for player. And I also just think that deal would be horrible for the Leafs.
Well, remember
like,
cap space is a thing too.
No, then I wouldn't trade Travis Dermott. I would then trade I would trade a forward before
It'd probably end up being like Dermott Engvall 2nd round pick. Dermott Engvall.
You think 3?
Kopi Niemela. Like I don't know.
You think 3?
Emma is a lot to give up,
guys.
Niemela's not that good.
I
know he puts up a lot of points. I get it.
We're not trading Niemela.
There's a reason Topi Niemela went in the 2nd round. I know he's fantastic.
The second round is in the NHL draft is like.
Let's not act like Topi Niemela is the second coming of Christ, guys. Oh my God,
no,
he's
but
fantastic.
He was drafted in the 2nd round. That's not chopped liver. He's not like a 7th round pick that they found.
I don't think so either. But are we acting like they're gonna want something back? They're not gonna hear take your bum Dermott, take bum Engvall.
No.
They're gonna need something.
If you're talking about a rebuild, the one thing that a rebuilding team wants is draft capital.
Futures. Okay, fine. They'll take a prospect. They know who Topi Niemela is, I'm sure. Like
I just think that's way too much for Vince Dunn. Like, dude, Vince Dunn isn't the second coming of Jesus Christ either. Like,
which is why you don't give him the second coming of Jesus Christ.
Which is why you would give up a 3rd or 4th round pick.
I promise you, if Vince Dunn is traded, there is probably a 1st round pick going the other way or a solid player.
There's a middle ground there because I think it's 100%. More than what's Evans saying. It's less than what Adamo's saying. It's not Niemela. It's not a 1st round pick.
Okay, Rovinen.
I'm with Jared with this.
There has to be a middle ground there. I think one value is too low, one's too high.
No. Not a 1st round pick for a dude that was picked up in the expansion draft. Like, get the fuck out.
He was exposed because he didn't want to be in St. Louis. Come on.
Yeah, but still, like,
come on.
But no, I'm
We know
just
he's
saying,
fantastic.
there's no dude. Fuck. If you're gonna give a first round pick to Nick Foligno, I mean, you might as well give 3 for Vince Dunn. But I'm saying like maybe a second round pick. But like you're not giving. If you want to give up Travis Dermott, then what's the point of making the trade?
Vince Dunn is better than Travis Dermott as like a Travis Dermott like diehard Travis.
Keep in
Dermott
mind the
fan.
Leafs have an extra defenseman as well right now that they're playing with.
Then give up
With
Justin
everyone
Hall.
healthy.
Then give up Justin Hall. Like, I don't know. Like
Justin Hall's right-handed. I hate to say it, but
good for
Vince
him.
Dunn is a lefty. But you know what? Vince Dunn can also play it. He can play both sides, which is another reason why he's so versatile. He's 25 on a good contract. Analytics are solid. Puts up
But
points.
dude, like I don't think like
I don't know
if
what
you're the
you need.
Leafs, like I've said this before, like if you're the Leafs, I don't give a shit that he's a right-handed defenseman.
You absolutely do. And
I
he's
don't
not.
think
Vince
it
Dunn is
matters
left-handed.
though, because Justin Hall isn't playing like the role that he plays in Toronto doesn't require for him to be versatile.
I don't think they do the trade for Justin Hall. There's just like I don't think they probably say no to Justin Hall. They'd probably demand Dermott because Vince Dunn and Travis Dermott are very similar players.
Then I wouldn't do the deal because I don't think there's any point.
Okay, maybe not. Fine. I'd go like Dermott, Engvall, and because I guess Niemela's
Dude,
untouchable.
you're giving up like the house
Rovinen.
for Vince.
Matthew
Dunn.
Nyes. I don't know. Probably not nice. I like that.
Matthew Nyes.
Probably not
No.
nice. Probably not nice. Probably not
Thank
nice.
God Adamo isn't the GM in Toronto.
Adamo,
Holy
I'm on
shit.
board. I'm on board with the
Guys,
trade.
stop
trade
overrating
target.
our
No, no.
prospects. Stop it.
I think
Dude, Matthew
absolutely agree.
Nyes made Team
Vince Dunn
USA.
is a player
Like,
to look at. I think that was a great like find you found for someone that
I love
made
it.
me look at. I don't think Matthew Nyes or Nemela, like I don't think that's where you're seeing those prospects get traded. In a
Maybe
Vince
not.
Dunn trade.
Maybe
I
not.
think
I could
that
probably
is a
see
lot.
Rovinen.
dude, Matthew Nyes and Nemo, like that's talking about if you want Eichel, not like not Vince Dunn.
Come on, guys.
Dude.
Are we serious?
Vince
Those
Dunn-
are big prospects to give
No,
up.
they aren't.
Yes,
No, they aren't.
Those are big prospects to give up.
Matthew
Vince
Nyes,
Dunn is
he
a
made-
good player that we maybe.
I think it's a must need for Toronto, but go on, Jared.
We're overrating our prospect system because we know about them. Full stop.
You're not wrong,
Not
but
wrong.
we aren't giving those prospects up in a trade like that because I don't think as much as yes, Seattle's a rebuilding team that's gonna want some futures. I don't think that's where you're dropping our big name prospects. I think maybe a second or third round pick and maybe an Engvall or a small forward, like a no name forward. Like,
Okay, let me ask
I
you,
think
why
that's
would
the type of
Seattle
trade.
do that? Why would Seattle?
Well, they're
take
getting a
a second
second.
pick?
They're getting a second and third round pick out of it. That's value there, and then they're getting depth forward.
Adamo, but when you're talking about a rebuild, the only thing a rebuilding team wants is draft capital.
They want prospects, dude. They want
No,
prospects.
they don't. Because
Literally look at the Mark Stone trade. Eric Brandstrom went back. Look at the Nick Suzuki went to Montreal in the Tatar trade.
No, yeah, but those
Rebuilding
guys.
teams also want prospects.
They want
Yeah,
certainties.
But when you're looking at it, like but exactly certainties. But nobody knew that Nick Suzuki was gonna be that good, and Eric
Yes, they
Brandstrom.
did. He was a first round pick.
No,
was a
but
top
he was,
15
there was
guy.
a lot of guys that were taken ahead of him because they were uncertain about how Nick Suzuki was going to be able to play.
Usually a top 15 pick turns into a good player more often than not. No?
I mean, in recent Jake DeBrusk, who the fuck were the 3 from Boston that
Okay, let's
all
go
are-
through the top 4 of that draft.
Okay, but what
McDavid, Eichel,
You're talking
Strome,
about top 15. What I'm saying is that I
Marner,
just don't
Hanifin,
think
Rantanen.
I don't think Vince Dunn has that much value that a team that Toronto would be like, yeah, we're gonna
Maybe
give up our
not Niemela, but
But even
probably
Matthew
probably
Nyes, like-
Rovinen. Okay, I said no to Nyes, to be fair. Y'all took that out of context. Probably not Nyes. Probably Rovinen. Probably Ronnie Rovinen. Probably Mikko Kokkonen.
But I wouldn't do a 3-for-1 with Vince Dunn when you're taking 3
You have
players.
to, man. They have 4. He's making $4 million. We don't have money. Engvall and Dermott or Engvall and Hall are in the package, no matter what. They have to be.
I would do Engvall and Hall, but I wouldn't do like some of these prospects that you're talking about because the Leafs are so screwed financially that they need these prospects.
That's a good point.
They
I
need
do know
home.
them.
They need homegrown prospects because that's how they get cheaper deals.
True. They also need good players.
Yes,
Which
but
Vince
when you're
Dunn
thinking
is.
long term, like you can't just get like you just can't give up these prospects because then what are you going to do 10 years down the line when when like Nyes is an established NHL player. Like it just I don't.
How do we know? How do we know it's going to be
Well, you
established NHL
don't,
player?
but you rather wait than be shocked for when it happens with a different team.
But are you trying to win a cup now, or are you trying to win a cup in the future?
Dude, I mean, is that a trick question? Like, I don't know though, because like
no, you're trying to win a cup now, obviously. Like you're getting Vince Dunn to help you come playoff time, of course.
Because he's like fantastic. Guys, he's fantastic.
No, I like the addition of Vince Dunn. I think that was a great find. That was a great player that wasn't on my personal radar. That I'm happy you brought him up. However, I think there's a way to build for the future build for this playoffs without sacrificing our future. I mean, you could maybe get rid of some picks, so you could call that sacrificing our future. But I don't think you need to pick out of our good bowl of prospects that we have in order to make a Vince Dunn trade. Maybe if we're making some big high caliber superstar
I'd
trade,
also
that's
like
where
to
you
point
want
out
to take out of that bowl. But
Vince Dunn is also 25. He
But
still has future in him. He still has a good 7 years in him.
Here's the issue. I just don't think that future is with Toronto because they just don't have the money. That's why I think like I seriously
and Dermott.
Dude, but that's not what I'm talking about because Vince Dunn's going to want to raise. That's why I was always
2 more years.
But I'm saying that's why I keep saying I think Austin Matthews is going to leave because I don't think they'll have money in order because if I just don't think that's something that will be sustainable as well because when you think about the Leafs and what they're trying to build, it's a complete team and they don't have that right now.
Wait, so we just went from Vince Dunn trade to
Austin Matthews leaving
because I'm thinking, because the issue with Toronto is that they never think long term. Like you guys are only thinking about this season, but there's also the seasons to come. And if you want to trade these prospects, like that's when Kyle Dubas and Shanahan need to sit down and realize like, okay, if we trade Vince Dunn, are we confident that we are going to be able to re-sign him? Because that's the conversation you need to have when you're discussing trading prospects. Because
question for you.
What?
Do you know anyone in Tampa's prospect system?
I mean, they got Ross Colton. They have.
He just scored the cup-winning goal.
That's not a prospect.
Okay, but
there's my point. No. Do you know any prospects
Cal
in Pittsburgh
there,
system?
Or the Foote brothers, I believe, are in Tampa.
No, Nolan Foote's in New Jersey. But
Cal Foote's in Tampa.
Okay, so there's one.
No, I mean, like I don't follow.
No, you're not supposed. No, I know you're not supposed to. Do you know any prospects in the Pittsburgh system?
I don't follow like
the Leaf one. Hold on.
Do you know any prospects in the Ottawa Senators system?
Yes.
See what I'm getting at?
But what's your
Jake
point?
Sanderson?
You see what I'm getting at?
Yeah. What's your point? I don't see.
What do Tampa and Pittsburgh have in common that they don't with Ottawa?
I don't know. They got great contracts.
Tampa and Pittsburgh are good because they move prospects. They move futures. Pittsburgh hasn't picked in the first round in years.
No. But they also have deals that are very team friendly that allow for them to also make these. I don't think that's a great comparison because they have more flexibility than what Toronto has.
Tampa? I mean, the guys that just like LTIR the shit out of Kucherov, they have no flexibility. Pittsburgh doesn't have flexibility. They're cap strapped.
No, but they've already built their flexibility, yes, but they've already built what they've needed to build.
Right. That's what Toronto is getting towards. But
the issue with Toronto is that they're not as complete as those teams are.
Why?
Because you look at Pittsburgh, they're dominant on defense. Toronto is not dominant on defense. That's the reason why they can't beat the playoff teams this season. You look at Tampa, they're dominant on defense. They have Victor Hedman. They have Ryan McDonough.
How did they get there?
What?
How did they get to dominant on defense?
They got there with flexibility because they were able to sign guys like Braden Point and Steven Stamkos and Victor Hedman to deals that allowed them to bring outside players into their system.
And the only not team friendly deal is Mitch Marner, by the way, out of the big four. I think Matthews is one of the best contracts in the league. I think
one of the best players in the
I
league.
don't think
Best contracts
Tavares
in the
is
league.
worth. I don't think.
He's also
I don't-
our captain, though.
He's
Like,
also kind of playing like he's worth 11 mil this season.
But okay, well then, if you want to say, then what's the difference? They've won Stanley Cups within the last 7 years.
Thank you. That helps my point. They're
but
getting
Toronto's
towards
not
that.
getting there. I
Why
don't
not?
get.
Why
well,
not?
they could.
Why can't Toronto get
Because
there?
they have
They're
one
first
goalie.
in the league.
They have one goalie. That's
Well,
not going to be.
I didn't realize Curtis McElhinney was like the superstar backup, or Brian Elliott is a superstar backup.
So you're going to but you're.
Am
now
I
you're
going to compare
comparing.
Vasilevsky to Campbell? Absolutely. Campbell's been better this season. Am I wrong?
Listen, let me get
Yeah.
let me put on
host.
the host pants right now because
That went.
You're going to compare
everywhere.
Vasilevsky to
it's-
Jack Campbell?
right now,
Why not?
if you're looking at
Why not? Because Jack Campbell is playing his first season in the NHL and he's 30.
Yeah.
Vasilevsky's already won 2 Stanley Cups and has had more playoff success than Jack Campbell could ever dream of.
listen,
Like, how could you compare him to Jack Campbell? He's also won the Vezina.
there is so much
All right, I'll
ways.
see the Leafs in April on the golf course.
There is a lot of ways in which teams develop success in their franchise history. You can date back as many decades as you want. It's always changed. There's different styles in the game. So many things come into play. No team in the 1980s, 90s, 2000s, they don't build their teams like they do in this day and age of 2010s and as recently as 2021, 2022. How you get there, like what Adamo's saying, and I do absolutely agree. And I think this is kind of the point that we're making, that not your understanding of it, it's just that the point to get it clear is that nowadays, all these teams, in order to get to somewhere where they want to, hint, the Stanley Cup playoffs and hoisting that Stanley Cup that you're trying to compete for, you have to give up. And it's just the sad, cold, hard reality of the game, the way it's trending towards. You have to give up these, maybe even they're your best prospects in your roster, or maybe they're just your biggest prospects that you have on your team. Toppin Yemela, like you mentioned, Adamo, he's a great Toronto Maple Leafs prospect.
Absolutely.
But it's hands down. He's
He's
one
not
of the best.
untouchable.
He is not untouchable. That is the thing. There is teams that are willing to give up younger prospects that some fans may think are not untouchable, and they're gone. It's not like you would know if a prospect is untouchable. Toppin Yemela is not.
He's the
untouchable.
furthest thing from untouchable. I'm sorry.
You, Jared, I know you were a little like shaky with the Toppin Yemela, but you know who would be untouchable, who's you.
There's
you
not
can
a
move on.
single person.
The Leafs,
on
I don't
Toronto
think,
Maple Leafs that are
have one
untouchable.
that is untouchable. You can move them. No,
I do get that. My opinion was just Vince Dunn. I don't think is where you move.
yes,
him.
the value of
that was my
100%. The
But
value of
I'm completely on point with the second thing you guys were bringing up, like when you guys went to when you're talking about Tampa and Pittsburgh. I understand
it's the
teams
process.
that end up winning, they have to give up prospects. It's not that I'm opposed to giving up prospects. I just don't think that is the type of trade where you give up a prospect.
Sometimes you
But-
overpay. Sometimes you have to. Remember.
I get
The
that,
issue
but
is that
I'm
the
still
Leafs have done that and
skeptical.
it hasn't worked out.
Then why has Tampa done it and it worked?
Because they've
I'm
shown
not saying
ample
it
success in
can't.
the playoffs.
I'm not saying it can't.
No, they
work out.
didn't.
I
The
just
year they
think
got
it's risky.
Goudreau, they were swept in the first round. They paid a first round pick for a fourth liner. Then they paid another first round pick for like a third liner in Blake Coleman.
Okay, and then they won 2 Stanley Cups following.
Yes. So why can't the Leafs? Who's to say the Leafs don't overpay the shit out of Vince Dunn and then go on a run? How do we know? How do we know they're not? Because you are objectively the Toronto Maple Leafs are a better team if they have Vince Dunn on their team than not Vince Dunn on their team.
I don't think
That I
that's
agree
been-
with.
I agree with that 100%.
So why can't a team that's already in first place and then you add probably a number 3-4 defenseman?
Because it's the guys around them that shut. It's because Matthews and Marner
Didn't show up. Didn't show up.
They don't.
What if they do
They
this year?
didn't show up.
They have. There's
They
been
have
runs where
shown. They
they've
have shown up.
Even Marner had it. 2018, Marner had a good.
Marner had a
playoff.
he had a
It's-
run.
It's possible.
At the trade deadline, you can't
Well,
fix up
here's
Matthews
the- but
Marner's
they don't-
production
they
in the
don't
playoffs.
do
You
it.
could fix
The
up the
issue-
problem now.
The issue is that all the guys don't do it in the same year.
What if they do this year? Like then
It's a game of what ifs, man.
No,
That's
but
what
what I'm
I'm
saying is like I'm just saying, like, 1 year it was Matthews, 1 year it was Marner, last year it was Nylander. The difference between that and when you're trying to compare Tampa and Pittsburgh is that when Pittsburgh was on that run and when Tampa was on that run, Steven Stamkos was coming every year. Braden Point was coming every year. Nikita Kucherov was coming every year. Victor Hedman was coming every year. Vasilevsky continued to play as dominant.
Wasn't Kucherov held pointless in that Columbus series the year before they won the cup?
I'm talking about the success that they had in the like when they went on those 2 runs, because you're talking about the end goal being the cup final.
Right.
I'm talking about the year that they went to the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, but I'm saying before they went to the Stanley Cup, there's no previous evidence of Tampa Bay, this big four can do it. They were literally won the President's Trophy and
But you're
swept.
talking about 1 year. They made it to the Stanley Cup in 2015 as well. So
Braden Point wasn't even drafted.
But
Doesn't
I'm not
matter.
talking about
That's
Braden
a different
Point.
team.
But I'm not. Then in that case,
Braden
it's
Point
not,
was part of their core.
I'm saying, but then if you want to talk about other success in 2015, Stamkos was still there, Kucherov was still there. So then they
weren't
added
quite,
a piece.
Vasilevsky was not. They weren't quite the team that they were.
But
they didn't have Vasilevsky. They didn't have Braden Point. Kucherov wasn't Kucherov. No, Vasilevsky was drafted in 2012 and didn't come over yet. I'm pretty sure.
I can't believe
they were Bishop.
No,
I'm 99% sure they had Ben Bishop.
I can't believe this was
Bishop
a
was their
discussion.
goalie at the time. It was not a Vasilevsky goaltending run.
This got way off.
Man, Vince Dunn threw a wrench in our plans, eh?
Yeah.
Oh, no, but going back to the trade deadline where Vince Dunn was sprung upon, the idea of getting him was sprung upon, was the fact that you're not fixing at the trade deadline. And this is what the trade deadline is. Vince Dunn's name, and the reason why we're on this discussion, this whole, I wouldn't say rampage, but all these opinions and everything, is because the Leafs need to acquire something at the trade deadline. The Leafs can't fix. They cannot fix. The Tampa Bay Lightning couldn't fix the production that they were getting out of their stars at a trade deadline. You can only see what you're going to get. If they don't produce this year, what are you going to do? You try to get the guys around them so that once they produce and they're firing on cylinders, and you're going against these bigger teams that have guys that are on firing on all cylinders and producing, your team can stop them. So you're kind of assuring yourself for not just these guys that are going to produce, because you need them to produce. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. If Matthews and Marner and whoever throw their core in, if they don't produce this year, they're not going anywhere. It's the reality of the playoffs. That's the reality of every single playoffs in any single sport. If they produce and you got these guys behind them, the Vince Dunns that you're going to add, and you're going to give up those assets if you have to, even if they are so high. And maybe you're going to get another defender like Vince Dunn with those same filters added, and you're going to give up that same value. If Matthews, Marner, and that core click, and you got those guys, can you be like the Tampa Bay Lightning? Can you be like the Pittsburgh Penguins? There's only so much you can see. That's the part of the GM. I think you guys we ripped on Kyle Dubas, the decisions that he makes, how hard it is to be a GM. Doesn't what we just talked about mention what it's like to be a GM, these discussions, what you're bringing in, what you got to get out, the pressure that's on you?
Well, then it comes to coaching, because John Cooper and Mike Sullivan are probably two of the best head coaches in the NHL. That it could be 1A and 1B.
And doesn't that go towards what we were talking about, the power play? How to arrange things? We're just all speaking about what it's like to be in the day-to-day life of someone in sports management, like Kyle Dubas, like a Sheldon Keefe, like a John Cooper, who's a terrific coach, and there's a reason why he's going to be in the Hall of Fame. We have to just see how things work out. You can only control what you can control in this game. If the trade deadline's coming up, you can only control what you're giving out, what you can take in, how much of what you can take in, how much it's worth. It's so many variables can come into play. You can only see what you have. I don't know if we can go any more from there. We're also running a little bit. Who knew Vince Dunn was going to take about 45 to an hour, eh? Did not plan on this, but I don't know. Is there anything else we have to say about this Maple Leafs team? We could even pick it up on the next episode. For anyone wondering, we're going to have another episode published later this week. We sort of tried to split it up because there's a lot of Leafs news that we want to discuss, and I thought it was a great job and a great idea. Just have an episode where we talk about Leafs, because we never really had that much time, this much deep discussion about this Toronto Maple Leafs team. One of the richest teams, one of the most teams that you could pick so many parts at and have a decent conversation like we just did. So we're going to maybe touch upon the Leafs briefly in the next episode, and we're going to have a lot of more NHL content. Now, I want to come to one more, segment. We'll keep it going. Jared, you just mentioned you have a couple of tweets. I'm hoping they're Leafs related for this one. I'm pretty sure you'll probably have them. I want to end on that, and then we'll move towards wrapping up the show, and we'll just move forward to the Toronto Maple Leafs content, but the NHL content. Evan is making his hosting debut, so I cannot wait to check that out. I definitely recommend you guys do as well. But let's put a tie and let's just wrap this one up with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Jared, what do you got with us for the tweets that you have? I don't know if we're going to consider this Twitter takeover. I don't know if you want to roll with the same name right now for this episode, or this is just tweets that come to
whatever.
mind. Take it away.
You know what? Screw it. We're calling this episode 2 of Twitter Takeover. So
there we go.
It's going to be pretty short, but this is episode 2 of Jared's Twitter Takeover. I love that name. Okay, so the first tweet we have, it comes from Micah Blake McMurdy. And I actually have a little bit of after I read, because it's 2 parts, I'm going to read part 1 of it, and then I'm going to ask you guys a little bit of a question. So the tweet is as follows. Since the start of the 2007-2008 season, the Leafs have held 230 3-goal leads, not counting empty netters. They've allowed their opponents to later tie the game in 20 of those games for the big lead blown rate of 8.7. So I'm just going to reiterate that. We've had 230 games where we've had a 3-goal lead. In 8.7% of those, we've ended up blowing the lead and tying the game. Yes, that is pretty bad, but there's exactly one team that is actually worse than that, with a 9.1% big blown lead rating. So the Leafs, I'm going to say, are second place. We have blown the second worst percentage of leads, but there's one team that's worse. So I'm going to go around. Which team do you think has a worse rating than us? We're going to start with Evan.
It's a hard question,
man.
Oh,
God. I'm going to say, God, I never thought. Fuck.
They got to be
Chicago.
Chicago, okay. Mario.
They got to be one that's not like media heavy, because we hear about it so much. The reason why the Leafs are so infamous for their 4-1 blown leads or whatever have you in the third period, their meltdowns, it's because the media is so heavy here. This is a really deep shot in the dark, but maybe Dallas. I don't know. It's just I don't know. This is a tough one for sure.
Interesting guess. Adamo.
I feel like I saw this on Twitter,
but I can't believe you found this. This is ridiculous. I'd never have guessed this.
I don't think it's true, but it keeps telling me Ottawa. Fuck it, Ottawa.
Well, they have to be good enough to have a 3-goal.
Hey,
that's what I was thinking.
Interesting guesses, but all 3 of you are wrong. Okay, so I'm going to read the second part of the tweet now. That's pretty bad.
It's going to be
There
Colorado.
is one team that's doing worse. The Vegas Golden Knights, who have 88 such leads, but have blown 8 of them for a big blown lead rate of 9.1%.
Oh my God.
So there you have it. The Vegas Golden Knights actually blow a bigger percentage of leads than the Toronto Maple Leafs do. So I had to bring that one up, especially for Mr. Evan.
What was the percentage, Jared? Just see if you can reiterate.
Okay, so the Leafs is 8.7%. Yep. Vegas is 9.1%.
Wow.
Is it percentage or like ratio? Do you know?
Well, it's percentage, because I mean, okay, the Leafs, it's 20 out of 230.
Oh boy.
And for Vegas, it is 8 out of 88.
I don't know if this is an excuse at all. I've probably on this show have said I hate excuses very much, but does the small sample size maybe play a role in that? Because
definitely. I mean,
they've only been around since 2016.
Toronto has a lot more games in that than Vegas.
This was a shot at Evan. Let's be clear.
I had to bring it up.
Come on, turn the camera on. Let's see. Don't be crying.
That's jokes.
That's awesome. I had to bring that. That was so interesting. I love that tweet. I screenshotted it right away. I'm like, I am bringing this onto the podcast.
Evan, you like that one? Don't lie. That was a good one.
That was good. After our little back and forth in the group chat, I think I earned that one. That was good.
Give it to him. I need to hear it too.
Oh my God. Okay. So that's tweet number 1. Now on to tweet number 2. This one is from John Tavares is underrated. PSA, or sorry. This is a 2-parter. The first tweet because someone quote tweeted it. So the first tweet is, the Maple Leafs still have a lot to work on if they plan on competing for the Stanley Cup, and that includes Sheldon Keefe, who still has a lot of holes in his coaching game. Then John Tavares is underrated, quote tweeted that by saying, PSA, the Toronto Maple Leafs currently have the best 25 game record in team history. And y'all are still wild. So where do you guys kind of fall on that? Do you think there's still some holes and some problems, or do you think, kind of like what we were talking about earlier, do you think people need to take a step back and chill out a little bit because of how good we are? I'll start with Evan here because I think he'll have an opinion there.
Wait, I'm sorry. Repeat. I was a little confused on the question. What exactly?
Sorry. So the first part was basically it's saying like the Leafs still have a lot of holes in their game. There's a lot of problems that are going to prevent them from competing for a cup. The example they brought up was Sheldon Keefe. But then the person who like quoted it, who I screenshotted, was the Toronto Maple Leafs currently have the best 25 game record in team history, and y'all are still wilding. Like y'all are still.
Yeah, I think that's like, look, like the issue I think I would have with that is just because they're winning games, but like it's just not against like tough competition. So, and it kind of reminds me of like, I know, like I'll go to like the Lakers 2 years ago, like they were like 52-14 or whatever it was. Like they were unbelievable, but I think they were like 14-2 to begin the year, and everyone thought they were great. But the issue was that they had the easiest 16 game schedule out of anyone in the NBA. So it's like that's what their record should be. Toronto, I do give them the respect that they're a great team. It's just that they're beating up on the crappy teams, and sometimes they're just getting by against the tough competition, or then they're losing against the teams that are just as good, if not better than them.
Yeah, and I think that's a very fair point. And I like that you're not just saying, nope, they haven't won in the playoffs before, so they suck. I think you actually are bringing a very good argument to the table. And there's definitely, it's a question that I didn't even think of, because you guys know me. I'm super positive about the Leafs. I'm like, no, our record's great. We're a great team. But I do think there is actually a very valid point that I haven't even taken much notice to, and I'm going to start paying more attention to, because I think there is a question there that, are we really beating up on all these weak teams, and is that the reason for our strong record and our strong start? So I think that's a very good question and a good answer. That's actually very thought out, and not just like hate filled.
No, yeah, they fucking suck.
Which maybe I kind of thought was
what we expected from Evan,
especially come in the group chat where like sometimes you just rip on the Leafs. I always put it this way in my mind, at least. I'm like, hey, you're the first to criticize them. You never give them their credit when they're doing well. So I kind of had to bring that up. But no, you did actually have a very sound argument. So that's all we're gonna say there. Damo, we'll move on with you. So what are your thoughts on that?
Sheldon Keefe is not a perfect coach. So by definition, yeah, there's work to be done. But I don't know, I'm kind of divided on that. I'd say, yeah, like you need to watch out for things. I put out again, I reference my Twitter a lot. Everyone should follow me.
I really should quote the Twitters and the bio.
I think it's the next step. It's the next step.
Yeah. I think Sheldon Keefe probably had his worst coaching game against Colorado last night. That's part of the reason they blew the leads. Like I noticed Simmons, Saney, and oh my God, who's the fourth line left wing? Was it Clifford? I think it was Clifford.
Yeah, Clifford.
They were out against the McKinnon line more than like twice, which was concerning. McKinnon played 25 minutes. Austin Matthews played 20. William Nylander played 19. So I think there's still some work to be done in terms of coaching. But as a player, we all know the defense isn't the greatest, and it could come back to bite them in the ass. So yeah, there's work.
Yeah, and I agree with that as well. Like we definitely aren't a perfect team, but my mindset is sort of like you definitely can point out that there's holes in our game and we aren't perfect. But I do think people as well need to kind of on the other end need to take a little bit of a step back and chill. Now we'll finish it off with Mario. What are your kind of thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I mean, I want to bring in Sheldon Keefe as well. I was not a big fan of the comments he made after. A lot of things, and this is what happened. This is what I wanted to tie into before we got to that great segue that I don't know if it was Jared or Evan. I think it was Evan that brought in. I was going to ask you, Adamo, remember the winning habits from the beginning of the year that we were discussing? Over the longevity of the season, and Jared, we talked about this as well. Their defensive game has been terrific. That's one of the winning habits, have a shutdown defensive game. It's been very good. You're going to look at the Colorado game as a one-off and say it wasn't the greatest defensive game. No, it wasn't. You're going to have some stinkers, but the one thing that was a big one, and we can even go back to the last season in the playoffs, and I hate to bring out old wounds, but these are the things that in the tenure of Sheldon Keefe, at least, they're pretty relevant. The Maple Leafs failed to give a killer instinct in the playoffs in that round. In many other games, that Ottawa Senators game, which is infamously quoted, at least in our show as well today, the like not being able to bury the team. That's the one thing that I think has to be worked on. I think that's a big hole in the game that they have to fill. And if you're going to beat, like you mentioned, Evan, these contending teams, which I totally agree with, because that's where you make or break your deal. That's when you show you're an actual team and what you're made of. If you're going to have to do that, you're going to have to lay the dagger and show that killer instinct against these bigger teams. So I think that's something they have to work on. I can't complain because, like you mentioned in that tweet, the record's terrific. You can't really work around it, but the winning habit of killing killer instincts, possibly the biggest and most important winning habit of them all, that one is still a little shaky in my mind. And I think over the course of this year and hopefully into the playoffs, we're going to see if it comes, and Sheldon Keefe is maybe right about his thinking.
Yeah, and I think you said that perfectly. Again, there's definitely areas to point out that we need to work on, coaching included. I think Keith, he's done fine, but there's definitely, especially in a game like that, that's where he has to make his money, and I think he definitely needs to step it up. We didn't see him do that, so there's going to be a lot of questions now moving forward of how is he going to kind of get it back, earn his money, and kind of be the coach that we need him to be for this team, especially in those really important games, and especially come playoff time when it really matters. So with that being said, that's going to wrap it up for Jared's Twitter takeover. Only 2 tweets today. We didn't want to go too crazy, but I think there were some fun ones. I had a lot of fun, especially with that first one, just kind of getting a little bit of a dig at Evan and the Vegas Golden Knights.
That's
but
awesome.
we like to have fun here.
We move.
That being said, wrap it up for Jared's Twitter takeover, and Mario, end off the show.
Yeah, so another terrific segment in the books. Definitely one that we're going to continuously roll with. And I think maybe even the NHL one this upcoming week, we'll be getting one in as well. So I think that does it for the show. To recap, we've covered that 4-1 blown lead by the Toronto Maple Leafs. We've covered trade deadline talk and what the Maple Leafs should be looking for, what values to set, what the filters are set when they're looking around for. Well, we've all unanimously said it as a defenseman. I think it's pretty set in stone where they're going to go towards this trade deadline. We've also discussed pretty, I wouldn't say briefly, but we went into some detail about Jack Campbell, his future with the Maple Leafs, what he can fetch in free agency if he were so choose to go that route, and if the Maple Leafs didn't do anything with that. So Jack Campbell was discussed, and Mitch Marner's future on the power play one. That's going to be an interesting storyline to find out. We've seen how it's been working so far with them, obviously, in COVID protocol. He won't be in there for long. So it's interesting to see how Keefe's going to move his players around, and a terrific power play nonetheless for the Toronto Maple Leafs this season. It's the heartbeat of this team. That's, I wouldn't say it's credited to almost all their success, but it does play a pretty deciding factor as well when you're looking at a game-to-game basis. But yeah, that does it for this episode of the Leafs Line podcast. Finally, we have one, at least for the first time in my tenure hosting this podcast, having one strictly set for the Toronto Maple Leafs, which does feel nice. It's definitely something that we can roll with in the future. So that does it for what we thought was going to be an hour and a half episode. Turned out more to almost 2 hours on the dot, but terrific discussions nonetheless for this episode here. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for coming on. It was a terrific episode, a terrific afternoon episode as well. I love doing them in midday. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in, and have a great rest of your evening and enjoy. I'm probably going to release this by the time it happens, the Bama Georgia game. If you think Georgia's going to win, you are absolutely mistaken. Roll Tide, baby. That is all I'm going to say and end it off.
Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. See you guys.